Chapter 6:24. The Realm Tree army attacked towards the gate of nature. They were like a swarm of ants, densely packed together. The scene of the crowd moving was grand and spectacular. The sky was filled with birds. The surroundings were filled with beasts. The entire Wanhua realm was already prepared, welcoming the unknown change. A green-robed realm master quietly floated in the air. Behind her were the hundreds of realm tree ministers. Everyone's expressions were solemn as they stared at the gate of nature. Reporting to Realm Master, the information we received was wrong. In order to guard against our Wanhua realm, the all-empty sect was afraid that we would be prepared, so they deliberately leaked the wrong time to us. In fact, the Bridge of Realm had already been set up a day in advance, and the spies we sent out had already been captured by the all-empty sect, killed by them, and lost their lives in the Sword World. Prime Minister Rong said, "I used the small Wanxiang map to calculate this point in advance, so I ordered the army to gather here." The Realm Master said indifferently, "I never thought that the people of the Cloud Heavenly Palace would be more shrewd than I imagined. Once they take advantage of the situation to enter the Wanhua realm, the Wanhua realm will be in chaos, and we must block them in front of the gate of nature. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable." Everyone nodded silently. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Just then, the ground suddenly trembled violently. The sky suddenly darkened, and the scene of the earth shaking and mountains shaking appeared in the eyes of every Realm Tree soldier. A large number of soldiers knelt down on one knee, displaying a respectful posture, and the birds in the sky all landed on the ground, not daring to fly high. All the beasts crawled on the ground. Their postures were filled with reverence. Everything seemed to be announcing something, as if an incredible existence was approaching. Realm Master looked into the distance, only to see a large number of incomparably thick tree stems and vines emerging from the ground. They were like pythons scuttling around the ground, and finally they all gathered in an empty space and stopped. Seeing that, the Realm Tree ministers led by Rong all rushed over and cupped their fists towards the empty space where the vines and tree stems were intertwined. "We pay our respects to the Tree Lord. We pay our respects to the Tree Lord." The shouts continued. The sound was earth-shattering as it swept over. The empty space cracked open as a large number of tree stems tore open the ground. Immediately after, a gigantic tree that could hold up the sky slowly rose from the crack. The enormous tree was extremely large, incredibly lush, as if it was only a few times smaller than the Realm Tree. How vast was the Realm Tree? Even though this enormous tree was smaller, it was still exceptionally majestic and sturdy, comparable to the great mountains and seas, vast and boundless. However, what was even more surprising was that there were many pitch-black tree holes on the trunk of this giant tree. They were extremely long and narrow, and from afar, these tree holes formed the shape of a strange human face. When the tree completely appeared on the ground, the human face moved. "Ha ha ha, I'm not late, am I?" A deep and rough voice came from inside the tree and spread throughout nature's gate. Seeing that, the Realm Master nodded slightly and said indifferently, "Uncle came at the right time. The all-empty sect is about to attack. If you were to appear, you would be able to intimidate them. Although my Wanhua realm is not a strong realm, it is definitely not a weak realm that can be trampled on by others. Now that someone dares to come to my Wanhua realm to show off, we naturally cannot sit idly by." The big tree snorted and laughed. "I want to see what abilities that Wanhua realm and Cloud Heavenly Palace have to dare to make a scene here." After the group of ministers heard this, they all agreed. Realm Master did not say anything. This tree spirit grew from the same root as the Realm Tree. Although its spiritual energy could not be compared to the Realm Tree, it still had an astonishing cultivation. After the gigantic tree spirit appeared, it gave many people a tranquilizer. Some of them were still worried, but after the tree spirit appeared, many of them revealed relaxed expressions. Even though the people from Cloud Heavenly Palace were about to arrive, they did not seem to be that nervous anymore. Tree Lord has been cultivating underground for 10,000 years. His cultivation is profound, and his strength is heavenly. I never thought that this matter would even alarm him, but if it were to appear, it would definitely be extremely beneficial to us. I'm afraid that even the people from Cloud Heavenly Palace would have to think twice before facing it. Myuk whispered to the Realm Master. Tree Lord's strength is indeed able to intimidate Cloud Heavenly Palace, but it is unable to dispel the greed in their hearts, and will not let them easily give up on spying on the Wanhua realm. We still have a lot of things to do, just be careful. The Realm Master said indifferently. Myuk nodded. Crash! Just then, the gigantic gate of nature suddenly released waves of light. Following that, the birds that were circling around the gate of nature were all frightened, and all flew far away. The soldiers in front of Gate of Nature immediately raised their swords and blades and stared at the door with serious expressions. Is it coming? The Realm Tree ministers all had serious expressions as they stared at the gigantic gate of nature. Seeing that, Realm Master's beautiful face was filled with coldness and solemnity. She could only see her fair and exquisite hands gently holding onto the door, above her waist and below her abdomen, her eyes staring at the door, her eyebrows not moving, her expression solemn. Without the slightest bit of fear, she stared straight at the door. The gate of nature released circle after circle of light blue runes. Following that, hundreds and thousands of light blue square talismans appeared inside the door. These talismans scattered all over the place, and in the end, they all gathered together, forming a bridge that extended into the void. He really came. Seeing that, Myuk took a deep breath and shouted loudly, "Everyone get ready!" With that, the Realm Tree soldiers all straightened their chests, gathered their profound strength, and stared at the gate of nature, while the group of birds and beasts all started to cry out, creating an imposing manner. The incomparably huge, towering tree, the Tree Lord, also narrowed its pitch-black tree hole and stared at nature's gate. After the miraculous bridge appeared, an exquisite spatial aura immediately burst out from it. This aura was like a ripple, continuously spreading outwards, and with every circle it spread out, the spatial aura inside would increase by one circle. At the end, the spatial aura surrounding the bridge was already as thick as a thick fog, almost covering the bridge, making it difficult to disperse. Suddenly, inside the gate of nature, a strange crack appeared on the bridge that connected to the void. Following that, several figures came out from the crack and appeared inside the gate of nature. A loud and angry voice sounded at the same time. People of Wanhua Realm, return my son's life. This roar was so loud that it shook the eardrums of countless people, and they almost fainted. After the voice came out, a man and a woman flew out from the gate of nature and floated in the air. Both of them had extraordinary temperaments. The man had sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. His cheeks were thin, and his appearance gave off an incomparably ancient feeling. He wore a dark yellow sword robe and carried a two-handed gigantic sword on his back. He stood proudly in the sky and stared angrily at the Realm Master and the others in the distance. Beside the man was a middle-aged woman with long, fiery red hair. The woman was slightly fat, her skin was fair, her cheeks were a little swollen, and she held a sword in her hand. At the moment, her face seemed to be distorted. The killing intent and anger in her eyes were extremely strong. Her two eyes stared straight at the Realm Master, as though she wanted to tear her into pieces. When the two appeared, everyone knew who they were. The man was the sect leader of All Empty Sect, Shao Chantian, and the woman was the sect leader's wife, Phoenix Lady. When the two of them appeared, their killing intent was overflowing. They were both at the peak of the 10th stage of the Sky Spirit Master, and when they were happy or angry, they could affect the world and cause the weather to change. Brother Shao, why are you wasting your breath? If these Wanhua Rel people are willing to hand over the culprit who killed Huailin, then that's fine. If they're not willing to hand over the culprit, then we can just go and look for him ourselves. Another voice floated out from behind, and then 3 figures flew out from the Bridge of Realm. All 3 of them used swords. One of them was dressed in a jade robe, with long hair that hung down to his shoulders, delicate features, and a thin and small figure, just like a woman. It was said that Qin Wenrong was the sect master of the swordsmanship-seeking sect, and once he used it, he would be invincible, and all the immortals and gods would be killed. It was extremely terrifying. The swordsmanship-seeking sect was also famous in the sword world. The other person was a bald man named Dao Xing, the sect master of the Luotong sect. Dao Xing had no hair on his head, but there was a scorpion-like black mark on his head. This mark was not small, and it extended from his forehead all the way to his neck. In addition, this person had a ferocious face, and his eyes revealed an ominous glint, giving off a fiendish feeling. He also had a sword hanging from his waist, but this sword was very special. It was curved like a sickle, or perhaps it was more like a blade. As for the remaining person, he was extremely different. This person was clad in golden armor, like a god of war. His face could not be seen, as it was covered by a golden mask. Only a pair of deep eyes could be seen. He also had a sword hanging on his back, but it was not just one, but 7. Each of the swords exuded a terrifying aura, vast and boundless. He was the pavilion master of the Star Sword Pavilion, the Star Sword Sovereign. It was said that the star armor was the armor of the war god, an ancient divine object, and only the pavilion master of the Star Sword Pavilion could wear it. Wearing the armor, the nebula sword art would have a miraculous effect, causing the effect of a sword art to increase by several times, and its power would be extremely powerful. The appearance of these 3 people represented the position of the swordsmanship-seeking sect, the Luotong sect, and the Star Sword Pavilion. I have always heard that the Wanhua realm is a harmonious world. The people here love peace, maintain peace, and everyone treats others with extreme sincerity. Regardless of scheming or scheming, they have never done anything devoid of conscience. But I never thought that my sword world would not come here to play, but instead suffer from such torment. From this, it can be seen that the people of the Wanhua realm only have an undeserved reputation. At this time, the armored starry sky, sword sovereign spoke. His voice was cold and filled with disdain. Ayaya, this world does not lack people with high morals. Obviously, this famous Wanhua realm is like this. Qin Wenrong crossed his arms across his chest and laughed softly. He looked at the realm master in the distance, and for some reason, a strange look of jealousy flashed past his eyes. He sneered, "In my opinion, the dirtiness of the people of the Wanhua realm is not much different from the true devil realm." That's right. The group of people laughed along. Chapter 6:25. The ridicule of these people caused the realm tree ministers to be extremely angry. They all gritted their teeth and were extremely agitated. "What did you say? What sanctimonious act? Don't spout nonsense." Minister Yang Lang stood up and shouted, his voice sonorous. "You Sword World people are only interested in profit, cruel and heartless. And you think you are worthy to talk about benevolence and righteousness with my Wanhua realm people. This is truly the biggest joke in the world." Rong Myuk said indifferently, "They're just a bunch of good-natured fellows. There's no need for everyone to argue with them. Just treat it as a joke." The Realm Tree ministers spoke one after another and started a counterattack. With that said, Xiao Changtian, Qin Wenrong, and the rest were not angry. Their expressions did not change as they stared at the Realm Master. "Are you the Realm Master of the Wanhua realm?" Xiao Changtian ignored the words of the Realm Tree ministers and asked the young lady dressed in green. "Yes." The Realm Master nodded slightly and did not say much. Towards the Realm Master, who treasured words like gold, these Realm Tree ministers were already used to it. But towards Xiao Changtian and the rest, they felt that it was a kind of naked arrogance. Xiao Changtian's face darkened. He stared at the Realm Master and said coldly, "My son Xiao Hualin died miserably in your Wanhua realm, and now there are no bones left, and his soul has scattered. Your Wanhua realm people must give me an explanation today. If not, I will definitely not let this matter rest." Explanation? The Realm Master raised her head slightly. Her hair that was as black as ink danced beside her fair and exquisite ears. She said softly, "How do you want us to explain this? Of course it's to hand over the person who killed my son, and..." Your Wanhua realm must also be responsible for this matter. You must compensate my all-empty sect with all the spirit land in the southeast of Wanhua realm, as compensation for the pain of my son's death. Xiao Chantian said coldly. What? You still want to cede land? The Realm Tree ministers were all stunned. They thought that as long as they handed over the person who killed Xiao Huailin, they would be able to make the other party give up, but they did not expect Xiao Changtian to still request for them to cede land. The spirit land in the southeast was a cultivation treasure land. The right side of the spirit land was the Linglong Mountain. The importance of that place to the Wanhua realm was self-evident. It could not be lost. And furthermore, if a realm were to lose a part of it to the people of other realms, wouldn't that mean that they were selling their own windows to others? How can I allow someone else to snore beside my bed? Everyone present was well aware of this. The main point of Xiao Changtian's words was to cede the land, and once he agreed, the all-empty sect, or rather, the power of the Sword World would successfully invade the Wanhua realm, and the Wanhua realm would never be at peace. Everyone stared at Realm Master, stared at Xiao Changtian, as though they were waiting for a reply. What a fool's dream. Yang Lang snorted. Everyone knew that the Realm Lord would never agree to this. However, sure. Just at this moment, the Realm Master suddenly let out a clear and melodious voice, giving her reply. With that said, the Realm Tree ministers were all dumbfounded. All of them widened their eyes and mouths, staring at the Realm Lord in astonishment. Everyone's mind was blank, stunned. Realm Lord, what did you say? Yang Lang cried out involuntarily. Realm Lord, are you really going to cede the land? He absolutely could not agree to this. Once we agree, my Wanhua realm will never have a peaceful day. Lu Yuan, who was behind, also rushed over and said excitedly, These people are clearly coveting the rich resources of my Wanhua realm. They are no different from the small fries of the true devil realm. Realm Master, please reconsider. Everyone was shocked and shouted anxiously. Only Prime Minister Rong Myuk did not say a word. Hearing the words of the officials, the Realm Master did not say a word and quietly looked at Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian was also a little confused. Everyone looked at each other, secretly exchanging glances. No one would have thought that the Wanhua Realm Master would actually be so easy to talk to. Although I can't see through her cultivation, judging from the appearance of this bone, she is probably just a young cultivator and won't be able to achieve anything. In the end, she was just a little girl, and it was said that she had not inherited the position of Wanhua Realm Master for long. Looks like this time it will be a success. Phoenix Lady, who was beside Xiao Changtian, snorted, her face filled with disdain. Xiao Changtian nodded his head, looked at the Realm Master, and said, At least you know what's good for you. Since that's the case, then all right, bring him out. In addition, quickly order the people from the southeast side of the Linglong Mountain to evacuate the area. I want to send people to set up a barrier to manage this place. No problem, the Realm Master said softly. But before that, can Sect Leader Xiao give us an explanation? Xiao Changtian frowned slightly. Xiao Huailin was buried in the Wanhua realm. According to your logic, killing a person and paying a debt, then Xiao Huailin slaughtered 793 people in the Wanhua realm, so he should be compensated. Since Xiao Huailin is already dead, I will not ask you to hand him over, but according to Sect Leader Zhao's words, you must compensate. The Sword World is not yours, and it is not easy for me to choose, so I can only cede your sect's encampment to my Wanhua realm. As the sound of his voice faded, everyone was stunned. He never thought that the Wanhua Realm Master would actually beat Xiao Changtian back with a single strike. If Xiao Changtian insisted on asking the Wanhua Realm to hand over the land, then they would naturally not be able to escape. If they refused, wouldn't they be returning empty-handed? Xiao Changtian's face turned ugly, while Phoenix Lady was even more furious. Damn girl, so that's what you were planning. All right, since you said so, then we will agree to it. However, you must first hand over the person and the land. Phoenix Lady shouted arrogantly. Hearing that, the Realm Tree ministers naturally understood that if they were to hand it over, the Wanhua realm would not be able to receive anything. After all, if the all-empty sect went back on his word, They could not do anything to him. Xiao Huailin killed people first, and then was killed. How can we be responsible for his death first? This matter is not appropriate. If you want to compensate first, you should be the one to compensate first. The Realm Master rejected him lightly. Phoenix Lady was speechless. Xiao Changtian's expression changed, his heart secretly congealed. This Wanhua Realm Master is not simple. She is clearly with me. But with just a few words, she took away the initiative. You two, there is no need to reason with them. We have gathered more than 100,000 disciples from the 4 sects behind us, and our strength far surpasses theirs. Why do we need to argue with her? Qin Wenrong flew over and said softly, "Do we have to make a move directly? The Wanhua realm is famous after all. If we were to rashly make a move on the Wanhua realm, I am afraid that it would arouse the dissatisfaction of the other realm forces, and at that time, my all-empty sect will inevitably become the target of public criticism." Xiao Changtian said in a low voice, "Brother Xiao, since when did you become so overcautious? Could it be that we came here to negotiate with them?" Dao Xing asked. Xiao Changtian did not make a sound, but Phoenix Lady had already started to roar coldly. "Let's not talk about anything else. Stinking girl, my son died in your Wanhua realm. No matter what you say, I do not care. Now you must first hand over the person who killed my son. If not, I will not let this matter rest." Xiao Changtian nodded his head, his killing intent surging. "You're right, my son cannot die so mysteriously. Hand over the murderer who killed my son first. We will discuss the rest later." Hearing that, the Realm Master shook her head lightly. "There's actually no difference between killing and being killed. Xiao Huailin was killed because he killed someone else. If I hand over the person who killed Xiao Huailin and let you guys take revenge, then who will take revenge for those people who were killed by Xiao Huailin? You're not willing to hand him over?" Phoenix Lady's eyes turned red, her expression becoming sinister. She only had this one son, and now that she had lost her life here, the hatred in her heart towards the Wanhua realm could be said to be like a river, flowing endlessly. She wished that she could immediately bring her disciples and slaughter the entire Wanhua realm. So she did not want to waste words with this girl. Realm Master did not speak. This action caused the anger of the people from all empty sect to soar to the heavens. Good, very good. Xiao Changtian nodded his head, his killing intent exploding. He said sinisterly, "Since that's the case, then don't blame me for not giving you face. If you are not willing to hand him over, then I can only kill the people of Wanhua realm and pay for my son's life." With that said, the people of Sword World all assumed a stance that they were ready to attack. "If you wish to become enemies with my Wanhua realm, I can only fight you with all my might." Realm Master was not flustered at all. With that said, the surrounding realm tree soldiers and countless creatures surrounded them, all of them staring at Xiao Changtian and Phoenix Lady like tigers eyeing their prey. Only then did Phoenix Lady, Xiao Changtian, and the rest notice the countless creatures and the realm tree soldiers below them. Seeing so much power, their faces became serious, but the two of them were not afraid. Their expressions were still sinister, and their killing intent did not decrease. "Fine, since you're determined to fight with us, then come at me." Phoenix Lady growled. She pulled out a translucent green sword from her waist and said fiercely, "Where are the disciples of all empty sect?" Countless figures immediately appeared from within the Bridge of Realm. They were densely packed and uncountable. Starry Sky Sword Sovereign, Dao Xing, and Qin Wenrong looked at each other, then sent out a signal to summon their sect's disciples. More and more people entered the Wanhua realm through the Bridge of Realm. A great battle was about to begin. Seeing so many people, the faces of the realm tree ministers became gloomy. The entire gate of nature was filled to the brim with people from the Sword World sects. There were around 100,000 of them, and each of them were not weaker than the first stage of the Sky Spirit Master. "Looks like there's going to be a fierce battle." Rongmyuk sighed and said, "If you want to fight, then fight. There's no other choice. If we don't fight today, there won't be any fruit in the future." The Realm Master said indifferently, "But what if the people of True Devil Realm were to ambush us at this time?" Rongmyuk asked anxiously. The people of True Devil Realm will not attack. The Realm Master said indifferently. I have chosen a battlefield in front of Gate of Nature. Even if the people of True Devil Realm enter the Wanhua Realm, they will only appear here, unless they want to fight us head-on. Otherwise, they can only watch. Hearing that, Rong-Yuk secretly nodded his head. He finally understood why the Realm Master would gather the army here, not only to block the people of All Empty Sect, but also to block the people of True Devil Realm. Hey, you brats from the outside world, are you so arrogant? Do you even put me, an old man, in your eyes? Just as the people of the Sword World sect were gathering and preparing to fight, a deep voice came out. Phoenix Lady and Xiao Changtian looked towards the direction of the voice, only to see an incomparably huge tree slowly moving towards them. Chapter 626. This is Tree Spirit? Xiao Changtian frowned. The tree spirit leaned towards them for a while. Its body was too big, and its roots are on the ground. Moving its huge body would destroy countless amounts of soil, and it could not move very far. After moving for a while, it stopped. The face on its torso changed for a while. Its pitch-black eyes squinted, staring at Xiao Changtian and the rest, and then chuckled. You guys are preparing to attack the Wanhua Realm, right? His voice was filled with a hint of playfulness, causing people to feel anger in their hearts. Umph, a mere rotten wood. How dare you be so impudent here? Phoenix Lady said in disdain. Rotten wood. The tree lord's eyes narrowed even more. He only heard a cold snort coming from the gigantic tree trunk. Following that, the countless gigantic branches on the tree lord's tree trunk extended infinitely and fiercely struck towards the people of Sword World. The dense, profound strength was like the collapsing heavens, majestic and vast, unstoppable. Xiao Changtian and the rest all had congealed expressions. They all activated the profound strength to resist. The disciples of the various sects were also caught off guard by this attack, and all of them scattered in panic. But in the next second, the realm took the initiative. Without any warning, she directly raised her fair and slender jade arm. Her eyes filled with spirituality stared at Xiao Changtian and the others, and at this time, her clear and melodious voice popped out two ice-cold words. Attack! In an instant, the entire Gate of Nature was in an uproar. Phoenix Lady and Xiao Changtian were completely stunned this time. They had brought several sects to the Wanhua Realm to demand an explanation, and had even invited the Cloud Heavenly Palace to suppress them. If it was any other small realm, they would have already bowed down and not dared to resist, but the new Wanhua Realm Lord did not care about their feelings at all. Wasn't she afraid of provoking an even stronger enemy for the Wanhua Realm? Xiao Changtian thought in shock. No one would have thought that the battle would unfold just like that. The Tree Lord was not in existence who liked to gossip. With just a single word of disagreement, he immediately attacked, but the Realm Master was not careless and immediately launched an attack towards the other party. This action had already fully expressed his attitude towards the other party. If you want peace, you can discuss it. If you don't want to discuss it, then fight. Compromise? It would never happen. Seeing that, Xiao Changtian was truly furious. Looking at the Realm Master who was standing in front of the Realm Tree Minister, his eyeballs seemed as though they were about to pop out of their sockets. Very well. Since you've already made your decision, there's no need to discuss it further. Xiao Changtian let out a long roar. He pulled out the gigantic sword on his back. He moved like lightning, instantly appearing in front of Realm Master. With a horizontal slash, the sword tip released tens of thousands of lightning bolts, like spider silk wrapping around Realm Master. Spirit Flower Sky Dance. Realm Master unhurriedly waved her hand, and specks of green light circled around her delicate body. Tens of thousands of lightning strikes were all absorbed by the green light, unable to harm her in the slightest. But was Xiao Changtian an ordinary person? Not being able to injure his opponent with a single strike, he immediately clenched his 5 fingers and smashed towards the green light. The fist released a sharp glint, directly breaking through the green light and striking towards Realm Master. Realm Master's face darkened. She immediately used her bare hands to block the incoming fist. The fist collided, Releasing a loud sound, Realm Master retreated slightly, but Xiao Changtian flew backwards quickly. In terms of strength, even as the sect leader of All Empty Sect, Xiao Changtian was not a match for Realm Master. In a one-on-one battle, Realm Master was naturally not weak. "Brother Xiao, don't panic, I'll help you," Star Sword Sovereign shouted, and suddenly rushed towards Realm Master. His golden armor that was flickering with a golden light created tens of thousands of afterimages in the air, and both of his arms transformed into more than 100 arms, the 7 swords on his back all unsheathed, and rushed towards Realm Master together. At the same time, he controlled the 7 swords. This was the power of the nebulous swordsmanship. Fighting against, it was equivalent to fighting against 7 sword experts. Each of the nebulous sword venerables' sword moves were different. Some used a strength sword that weighed thousands of kilograms and could split a mountain. Some used a speed sword that was like a gust of wind, invisible and formless. Some used a flame sword that was scorching hot and could roast the sea. There were also some who used a stone sword that was hard and indestructible. Star Sword Sovereign and Xiao Changtian, one on the left and one on the right, cooperated with each other and launched a fierce attack on the young girl, who looked to be only 17 or 18 years old. The Realm Master's body was light as she dodged to the left and right like a fairy. She pointed at the air with her white finger, and the surrounding space immediately rippled with a dark green ripple, like the surface of a lake that had been disturbed. Following that, a large number of thick branches shot out from the air and fiercely pierced towards the two of them. The two of them immediately raised their swords to block, but they felt the pressure increase. This little girl's strength is indeed not to be underestimated. "I can't use force against her," Xiao Changtian said coldly. "What should we do?" Star Sword Sovereign asked. Xiao Changtian used his sword to blast away the overbearing Realm Master. He retreated and snorted. The Wanhua realm is mainly made up of spirit life qi. Many of the living beings here rely on the spirit life qi emitted by the realm tree to survive. Sword Sovereign, I will hold her back. Quickly bring your disciples around the realm tree's army and pound straight for the realm tree. Saying that, Xiao Changtian's face became extremely sinister. "Since my son is buried here, then, I want the entire Wanhua realm to accompany him in death." With that said, Star Sword Sovereign immediately nodded his head, indicating that he was ready to take action. When the Realm Master heard this, her fair face suddenly became extremely cold and gloomy. "Sect Leader Xiao, do you really think that the people of my Wanhua realm are easy to bully?" As the sound of his voice faded, killing intent appeared. At this moment, the spirit life qi that was circling around Realm Master's body suddenly disappeared without a trace, and her fair skin also started to turn pink. In the blink of an eye, it was as if he had become a completely different person. Such a strange phenomenon caused Xiao Changtian to be a little dazed. This kind of power was definitely not something that could be produced by the spirit life qi. In the next second, he broke out in cold sweat. He didn't know why, but he felt as if he could be killed by the young girl in front of him at any time. What was going on? Why did he have such a feeling? Although this girl's cultivation is higher than mine, and I am unable to kill her, she can't do anything to me either. Xiao Changtian's forehead was covered in perspiration. This time, the pressure the girl in front of him gave him had become unprecedentedly huge. "Stop!" Just as the people of Realm Tree, All Empty Sect, Ask Sword Sect, Luotong Sect, and Star Sword Pavilion were fighting fiercely, a deep and angry shout came from the other side of the Bridge of Realm. In the midst of the majesty of the voice, a burst of pressure floated out from the bridge and suppressed everyone. Other than a few sect masters, Realm Master, and the Tree Lord, everyone else could not take it and squatted down on the ground. They felt as if their bones were about to be crushed, and it was extremely uncomfortable. When this happened, everyone understood that an incredible person had arrived. The two sides consciously retreated and faced each other. As for Xiao Changtian and the rest, they secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao Changtian's face revealed a look of joy. He and Phoenix Lady anxiously turned, cupped their fists, and bowed towards the Bridge of Realm, and respectfully called out, "Father, Father, you're finally here. Phoenix Lady retracted her anger and called out coquettishly. The starry sky, sword sovereign, and the rest actually cupped their fists and bowed, full of respect. Greetings, Elder Jean. Greetings, Elder Jean. The pious voice rang out nonstop. Although the Starsword Pavilion, Luotong sect, and the Ash Sword sect were not small in scale, compared to the Cloud Heavenly Palace, they were nothing. This time, the reason why Xiao Changtian was able to invite the help of the three sects was not only because he had promised him great benefits, but also because of the relationship between the All-Empty sect and the 13th Elder of the Cloud Heavenly Palace, Jean Maluo. 7,000 men and women dressed in white robes with long swords on their backs rushed out from the Bridge of Realm. After these men and women appeared, they stood on the left and right, flying in an orderly manner. What was shocking was that all of these disciples had a cultivation of the third stage of the Sky Spirit Master, and the profound chi was extremely dense, far surpassing ordinary third stage of the Sky Spirit Master people. They stood proudly with extraordinary temperaments. Their bodies were emitting a bright light, as if they were immortals. And in the middle of these people, an old man with golden hair and a golden beard walked out. The old man had one hand behind his back, and the other holding an iron staff. The iron staff was silver white in color, and the body of the staff was extremely sharp and heavy. He stepped on a cloud formed from sword chi and floated over, his sharp eyes sweeping across every single realm tree person in front of him. The moment this person appeared, the sword chi and spirit life chi that were reverberating in front of the gate of nature immediately disappeared. What replaced them was only one kind of chi, and that was the chi that belonged solely to this old man. Father, you have to uphold justice for your grandson. Phoenix Lady ran over and grabbed Jean Maluo's arm. Her eyes were filled with tears as she cried out sorrowfully. Jean Maluo only nodded his head quietly, patted Phoenix Lady's shoulder, and told her to wait at the side while he walked towards the Realm Master. The Realm Master removed the strange, profound strength from her body and looked at Jean Maluo, who was walking over without saying a word. On the other hand, the Tree Lord was unhappy. Hey, who are you? A rough voice came out. I'm the 13th Elder of the Cloud Heavenly Palace, Jean Maluo. The old man said indifferently, I am here today to seek justice for my grandson, Xiao Huailin. I can't hand over the person, and I won't cede the land either. The Realm Master said softly, directly making her words clear, showing her stance. Do you insist on fighting with us? Jean Maluo's face became gloomy. Lord Realm Master, I have heard some rumors about you. It is said that you are the most unreasonable person in the Wanhua realm. The previous Realm Master has always done good deeds, carried forward the Wanhua realm's purpose, and abided by your duties. But you are different. Your mouth is filled with benevolence and righteousness, but in private, you have killed a lot of people. Although the people you killed were all because the other party violated the rules of the Wanhua realm. But many people did not deserve to die. Don't you have anything to say about this? The Realm Master raised her head. Her eyes looked at Jean Maluo quietly and said indifferently, What you have heard is just an appearance. All the people I have killed are people who deserve to be killed. Maybe you have your reasons. Jean Maluo said indifferently, But I understand everything you have done is for the Wanhua realm. Although you are different from the previous Wanhua realm master, if the Wanhua realm suffers any losses, you will feel bad. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you continue to act so recklessly and insist on fighting with us, then I can only regretfully tell you, the Wanhua realm will not be peaceful in the future, and there is even the possibility of it being destroyed. Chapter 6:27. If these words came out of Xiao Changtian's mouth, many people would scoff at them. No matter how strong the All-Empty sect was, they could not compare to the Wanhua realm, but Jean Maluo was different. Standing behind him was the entire Cloud Heavenly Palace. Compared to the Wanhua realm, the power of this power was definitely not inferior. Jean Maluo did indeed have the qualifications to say such words. From what you said, it seems like there is another solution. The Realm Master said indifferently. That's right. Jean Maluo nodded his head. Our cloud heavenly palace does indeed have no enmity with the Wanhua realm. My grandson died miserably in this realm, but I know this was not done intentionally by your people, Realm Master. If I were to place all the responsibility on you, it would make people think that my cloud heavenly palace is unreasonable. At least you've said something fair, said Yi Shiwen with a smile. The tree lord snorted and said, since that's the case, why aren't you taking your men and leaving this place? Leave? Jean Maluo shook his head. Although the responsibility is not entirely on you, in the end, you cannot escape responsibility. If we do not seek justice, we will not leave just like that. Then what the hell are you trying to do? The tree lord was impatient, and roars came out from the huge tree trunk. You don't want to fight? You don't want to leave? What exactly do you want? Hearing that, Jean Maluo smiled faintly. He looked at the Realm Master and said indifferently, Realm Master, before that, may I ask, have you kept my grandson's corpse? Xiao Huailin's bones are indeed preserved in the Realm Tree, but he only has bones left, no flesh and blood, no soul, no hope of resurrection, no way to reverse the situation. The Realm Master said indifferently, resurrection is naturally impossible, and I don't have any extravagant hopes. However, please return my grandson's corpse first. Jean Maluo said. This request was not excessive. Furthermore, the reason why the Realm Master saved Xiao Huailin's bones was to return it to the all-empty sect. The Realm Master turned his head and nodded at Rong Myuk, who was beside him. Rong Myuk understood and immediately ordered people to return to the Realm Tree to retrieve Xiao Huailin's bones. Very quickly, the person who returned to the Realm Tree returned. He took out a waxy yellow wooden coffin from the space bag and placed it on the ground. Seeing that, Jean Maluo immediately flew in front of the coffin and opened it. Inside the coffin was a set of clean, white human bones. The human bones were sparkling and translucent like fine jade. Seeing the skeleton, Phoenix Lady immediately burst into tears, while Xiao Chantian also cried, his expression sorrowful. Jade bone. Jean Maluo stretched out his old hand and caressed the withered bone, his eyes filled with turbidity. When Huailin was born, I had met with the palace master and asked for the dark green jade bone for him. I inserted it into his body and recast his bones, allowing him to have a perfect set of jade bones and increase his talent. But I never thought that the jade bone would still be here, but the person would be gone. Sigh. Jean Maluo let out a long sigh. His heart was filled with entanglement. People with his cultivation level would not be easily disturbed by their temperament. But the corpse in front of him was his own grandson. How could he not feel anything? Father, you must avenge Huailin. Phoenix Lady sobbed and screamed with all her might. Don't worry, the murderer will definitely not get away with it. Jean Maluo retracted his sorrow and said calmly. He grabbed one of the hand bones and placed it in his palm. He slightly activated his profound energy, and a golden light wrapped around the jade bone. Fighting will only cause both sides to suffer. Although the people of my sword world use fighting as their main method of cultivation, but today, we are not here to cause trouble, but to seek justice. This old man will not force you, and you will also take a step back. We will have a fair competition, and whoever loses will satisfy the other party's conditions. How about it? A contest? Realm Master frowned slightly. Right, a contest. Jean Maluo stood up, his gaze staring at Xiao Huailin's jade bone in his hands. He suddenly grabbed the iron staff that was like a sword and slashed in the air. The body of the staff released a mysterious, profound strength. Tearing through the air, a pitch-black, lustrous circle of light appeared in front of Jean Maluo. But before that, the murderer who killed my grandson must pay with his life. If that person gets away scot-free, then everything will be meaningless to this old man. With that said, Jean Maluo suddenly crushed the jade bone in his hand, turned it into powder, and scattered it into the air. The powder revolved around the air, and in the end, stuck in the air, releasing a strange spatial aura. This is Realm Master's face changed slightly. What are you trying to do? Jean Maluo snorted. Since Realm Master is unwilling to hand over the murderer, who killed Huailin, then this old man can only do it myself. Linglong Mountain. Near the entrance of the dark place, Su Yun and Hu Qianmei had just landed on the ground. At the moment, there were very few people at the entrance of the dark place. All empty sect, Ask Sword sect, and the other four great sect had attacked the Wanhua realm with the help of the Cloud Heavenly Palace. This news had long spread throughout the entire Wanhua realm, and even the people from the other realms knew about it. For a time, it caused a huge uproar. All the spirit cultivators south in the dark place were already in danger, afraid that the incident would affect them. When the two of them entered the dark place, they saw that the dark place was already packed with people. Just the entrance alone was blocked by a lot of people. People were gathered in twos and threes, discussing something, and the people who brought people to the crevice in the past were doing very well. The Wanhua realm was not peaceful. The gate of nature was sealed. In order to protect themselves, everyone could not wait to leave, and the only exit was the dark place. There are many spatial cracks in the dark place that can tear apart the spirit cultivator. They're not cracks that lead to other realms. We need to find a guide and have him bring us to the designated crack that leads to the ultimate martial world. Su Yun said, "All right, let's go look for it now." Hu Qianmei nodded, pulled Su Yun's clothes, and followed him forward. At this time, no one rushed towards Su Yun and enthusiastically introduced their business to him. Everyone was busy, and many of the sect members in the Linglong Mountain chose to leave. It was obvious that the commotion here made them extremely uneasy. Su Yun looked around and finally found a person who was selling the coordinates of the spatial crack that led to the ultimate martial world. It looked like a beast man with a human body and a rabbit head, but it was not cute at all. Its face was filled with dents, as if it had been slashed by a knife. One of its eyes was blind, the other was blood red, and its entire body was emitting a disgusting, rotten smell. Judging from its chi, it should be at the second stage of the Sky Spirit Master, but with this kind of cultivation, it should be able to repair its body by itself. How could it be blind? How strange. To the ultimate martial world? No problem. One price, 5 million profound coin per person. The man stretched out his hand and said, 5 million. Hu Qianmei was startled and then became angry. The others are all 3 million. Why are you 5 million? You are simply ripping people off. The time is different, so the price is naturally different. The rabbit-headed man said, according to reliable information, the people of all empty sect and the Cloud Heavenly Palace have already crossed the Bridge of Realm and entered the Wanhua realm. They are currently facing off against the Realm Tree Army, and a great battle is about to break out. At that time, I am afraid that the entire realm will be affected. If you do not want to die and want to leave this place as soon as possible, then pay me 10 million. If not, I will definitely not bring you to the crack that leads to the ultimate martial world. After the rabbit-headed man finished speaking, he immediately turned around and ignored the two of them. He had a lot of business, so he did not care about the two of them. But in the next second, a blood-red dagger was suddenly placed on the rabbit-headed man's neck. Stop, did I let you go? Hu Qianmei held onto the dagger and said coldly. Rabbit-headed man's body stiffened. He stopped in his tracks, turned his head and stared at Hu Qianmei and said, What are you doing? What? If you don't bring us to the ultimate martial world's crack, then don't blame me for being impolite. Hu Qianmei said coldly. Do you know what the consequences will be if you do such a thing here? Rabbit-headed man did not panic. Instead, his voice was extremely cold. This kind of behavior of yours is absolutely not allowed. You will face the punishment of the entire dark place. I can guarantee that as long as you harm a single hair of mine, the two of you will definitely not be able to leave this place. Then let's give it a try. Hu Qianmei coldly snorted. If we don't leave this place, we will also die. Since we are going to die, why don't we drag you down with us? You, Qianmei, put down the blade. Just then, Su Yun spoke up. Hu Qianmei was startled. She turned to look at Su Yun. Big brother, put down the blade. It's only 10 million profound coin. I can afford it. Su Yun laughed. Oh, seeing that, rabbit-headed man looked at Su Yun. You have money? Why didn't you say so earlier? Why go through so much trouble? Don't be so long-winded. Hurry up and bring us there. Time is of the essence. If we delay, and the two of us do not leave this place, then even if the heavenly king is here, I will still kill you and bury you with us. Do you know? Su Yun waved the profound coin card in his hand and said indifferently. Rabbit-headed man glanced at the card in Su Yun's hand, then looked at Hu Qianmei, his face changing, but he did not say a word, and immediately turned and walked forward. Seeing that, Hu Qianmei was truly startled. You're that rich? It's just that I have money, Su Yun said shamelessly. The two of them followed. Hu Qianmei kept her blade. However, just as Hu Qianmei took a few steps forward, with her as the center, a large number of golden halos suddenly shot out. The halo of light was like the sun, releasing a scorching light, illuminating the entire dark place. Qianmei? Su Yun was shocked and immediately went forward. But just as he approached, an invisible barrier suddenly isolated him. What was going on? Were you the one who killed my grandson, Xiao Huailin? Dark place? Crack? Humph. You want to escape through the door of disorder here? Ridiculous. Did this old man allow you to run? A melodious voice sounded from the unseen world. Hu Qianmei, who was surrounded by the halo, was extremely terrified. She looked around uneasily and shouted, Who are you? I am the 13th clan elder of Cloud Heavenly Palace, Jin Maluo, Xiao Huailin's grandfather. Aunt, obediently submit and pay for my grandson's life. With that said, a spatial storm exploded above the circle of light. In the center of the storm, a large golden hand extended out like a mountain pressing down. It smashed towards Hu Qianmei fiercely. Chapter 628. Looking at the gigantic golden hand that was descending, Su Yun's face turned pale white, as if his heart had been ruthlessly hammered by someone. He no longer dared to hesitate. He pulled out the death sword and fiercely slashed at the transparent barrier in front of him. The tip of the sword was like a tree branch blown by the wind, tightly wrapped in sword chi, shaking and trembling as it swept forward. At the same time, Hu Qianmei, who was in the circle, also reacted. She took out an iron box from somewhere. Her fingers quickly flicked a few times. Her pink lips muttered some words. Then with a shout, the iron box opened. A golden dragon flew out and collided with the gigantic palm that was descending down. Donk! The golden dragon and the palm exploded, the impact crazily bombarding the transparent barrier that isolated Hu Qianmei. The golden dragon was majestic and divine, like a divine object made by the heavens. But the gigantic palm was also extraordinary. When the force struck, the ground began to crack. The barrier trembled. Su Yun took the opportunity and stored a burst of profound chi on the sword blade, causing the death sword to become berserk. Following his furious roar, it fiercely slashed onto the transparent barrier. In that moment, crack! The barrier shattered. Su Yun immediately rushed in. Hu Qianmei, who was inside, could no longer hold on. She clenched her teeth and held onto the iron box with both hands, causing the golden dragon coiling dragon inside the iron box to fly up, resisting the falling big hand. The golden dragon's body flickered, as though it could disappear at any time, and Hu Qianmei's delicate body below was trembling nonstop. She had a cultivation close to the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Adding the magic treasure, she could contend against the 6th stage Sky Spirit Master existence. But how powerful was the person in front of her? She actually didn't have the ability to fight back at all. Sort of the sun and moon. Su Yun stared at the big hand, pulled out the Tribulation Fire Sword, and smashed it forward. The Tribulation Fire Sword that was surrounded by the sun and moon released a divine light. It was extremely dazzling in the dark place. The sword tip pierced into the palm and immediately exploded, allowing Hu Qianmei to escape. Let's go, Su Yun shouted anxiously. Hu Qianmei immediately removed the treasure in her hands and wanted to escape into the distance. However, the halos revolving around her quickly overlapped at this moment and then directly exploded. A golden shadow appeared from the exploded halos. From the looks of it, it was an old man with a walking stick in his hand. He had golden hair and a white robe. His expression was extremely serious, and when he appeared, he immediately stepped towards Hu Qianmei. It was just a simple step, but with a single step, he could travel 1,000 miles. He teleported over, and his speed was as fast as light. Still trying to escape? Don't you know your own situation? Surrender. The light figure shouted and slapped Hu Qianmei with his palm. Hu Qianmei only felt the killing intent behind her. She hurriedly turned around and urged her chi to block, but the moment her palm touched the opponent's iron palm, her body flew out and fell onto a large boulder. The large boulder was shattered by her delicate body, and after she landed on the ground, she spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Her face instantly turned pale, and her eyes instantly dimmed. If Hu Qianmei did not receive it, this palm strike would have directly taken her life. Just how terrifying was this person's cultivation? Die! The light shadow old man did not show the slightest bit of mercy. He waved his palm towards Hu Qianmei. The palm chi flew out. It was like a heavy mountain crashing. This attack was meant to kill someone. What kind of great resentment was this? Su Yun turned and instantly appeared in front of Hu Qianmei. Without saying a word, he activated the 7th tier Imperial equipment, and a circle of chi cover wrapped around his body. When the palm chi struck the chi cover, it caused the Imperial equipment chi cover to tremble, and Su Yun also felt the profound chi in his body tremble crazily. It was extremely uncomfortable. However, he had finally received this attack. Seeing Su Yun, who suddenly appeared, the old man immediately frowned. Who are you? Who I am is not important. What's important is that with me here, you can't hurt her. Su Yun held the death sword in one hand and the tribulation fire sword in the other, as he said with all his might. When the old man heard this, a hint of anger flashed across his calm face. A mere scoundrel dares to be so arrogant in front of this old man. You won't live for long. With that said, the old man gathered profound strength again and was about to attack, but this time, he no longer used his palm. Instead, he raised the pitch-black iron staff. It was as if he was holding a sword. The body of the iron staff burst out with a surging and ferocious sword chi that shot out in all directions. In an instant, the ground in all directions began to tremble crazily. The ground cracked open, and sword chi gushed out from the cracks, as if it was the end of the world. Su Yun felt his heart beating wildly. His entire body could not help but feel cold. Looking at the iron staff that was slowly raised high, he felt that this attack would be extremely difficult to receive. The people of Dark Place in the distance had long since escaped without a trace. There was a strange change here, and no one dared to approach. Especially after the old man appeared, it made people tremble with fear. Was it going to end just like that? Su Yun secretly clenched his teeth. He stared at the old man and suddenly moved. Using his speed to its maximum, he slashed horizontally straight at the old man's wrist that was holding the iron staff. From the looks of it, it was obvious that he wanted to cut off the old man's wrist to stop the attack before it landed. Seeing that Su Yun's speed had increased by so much, the old man was also surprised. However, he did not defend against Su Yun, nor did he even dodge. He only allowed the mournful death sword to transform into a black stream of light and slash towards him. Crash! The tip of the sword pierced through the old man's wrist. However, it was as if he had passed through the fog. The old man's wrist was not damaged in the slightest, and the death sword's body directly leaped over. What? Su Yun's eyes widened. You are too young. Just this alone won't be able to hurt this old man. The old man said indifferently. His sword slashed down, straight at Su Yun's head. When the sword descended, it was as if the sky had collapsed, the earth had collapsed, and the universe had turned upside down. Its power could be said to be able to destroy the heavens and the earth, and nothing in the world could match it. This sword strike, even Ten Su Yun would not be able to withstand it. Big brother, Hu Qianmei, who was trying his best to stand up, saw this scene and screamed. However, in that moment of life and death, a soft and gentle green light suddenly appeared around Su Yun, instantly enveloping him. The terrifying iron staff directly fell down and struck the green light. Like a clay ox entering the sea, its power disappeared without a trace. Su Yun was startled. He did not have time to react from within the green light. A white and soft hand extended out and gently pushed towards his chest, pushing him 100 meters away. Su Yun stabilized his body and looked at the green light, only to see a beautiful figure appear within the green light. The figure's back was facing him. Her slender and fair fingers lightly pointed at the air, and the terrifying iron staff was immediately repelled. The old man took a few steps back and sized up the person. The person who came was also staring at the old man. Although he could not see his face clearly, just by looking at his back, Su Yun knew who he was. Realm Lord. I never thought that a dignified elder of the Cloud Heavenly Palace would actually use this kind of void teleportation technique to kill people. And the ones you killed are actually juniors. Aren't you afraid that the people of the myriad heavens realm will laugh at your Cloud Heavenly Palace for doing this? Realm Lord stared at the old man in front of him and said indifferently, "This old man is only avenging my grandson, Xiao Huailin. Even if I am ridiculed, so what?" The old man said solemnly, "However, Wanhua Realm Lord, what are you doing here? Don't tell me you still want to protect her? She is indebted to the people of my Wanhua realm. How can I watch her die?" Realm Lord said indifferently. Then, with a wave of her hand, a wave of green, she directly hugged the heavily injured Hu Qianmei, instantly engulfing her, and then disappeared into the void along with Realm Lord. "Qianmei!" Su Yun shouted anxiously, but he could no longer see Hu Qianmei's figure. Seeing that, the old man secretly snorted. Without even looking at Su Yun, he waved his hand, and his body suddenly disappeared. The surrounding halos disappeared without a trace, and the dark place once again returned to its pitch-black state. However, Su Yun's expression was gloomy, his heart was beating wildly, and his face was pale white without any blood. The appearance of these two people did not seem to be their original bodies, but rather because of some sort of mystical, profound technique. Hu Qianmei seemed to have been taken away by the Realm Lord, and judging from the conversation between the two, the Realm Lord seemed to be protecting Hu Qianmei. In that case, Hu Qianmei must be at the current location of the Realm Lord. Thinking about it, Su Yun's expression turned cold. He immediately turned and rushed towards the gate of nature. Su Yun! Suddenly, a low shout came from behind Su Yun. Su Yun suddenly turned his head, only to see that a figure had appeared behind him. This person was the Sword Ancestor. At this moment, the Realm Lord's figure was no different from an ordinary person's, as though he had used some sort of profound technique to make his transparent body appear corporeal. He never thought that Sword Ancestor would actually appear at this time. Sword Ancestor! Su Yun anxiously bowed to Sword Ancestor. What a strong aura! Although it's a far cry from my current state, it's not an ordinary person for you. The Sword Master glanced at the place where the old man disappeared and said in a deep voice, "Did you offend anyone? I was originally in the prison, but I felt that you were being threatened, so I came out to take a look. Sword Ancestor, please help me." Su Yun immediately called out. "What happened?" Sword Ancestor frowned and asked. Su Yun immediately told him about the matter regarding Xiao Huailin and the matter regarding Jin Maoyuo's revenge. Hearing that, the Sword Ancestor nodded. "So to say, your dual cultivation partner killed this Xiao Huailin, and now they are here to kill your dual cultivation partner? The other party is strong. I'm afraid I'm not his match." Su Yun clenched his fists and said. Hearing that, the Sword Ancestor shook his head. "My limitless sword sex people, as long as they have a sword in their hands, they will never lose. Although your opponent's cultivation is far inferior to yours, it does not mean that you cannot win. The person who uses the sword does not rely on brute force, not pure cultivation, but on his own skill, his own sword Dao, his own faith. Even if you have to pay with your life, you must fight with all your might and not let down the sword in your hands. Su Yun, you go and fight with him. I will help you." Hearing that, Su Yun was confused, although he did not know what Sword Ancestor meant, but there was no time left. If he did not go now, he did not know what would happen there. He cupped his fist towards Sword Ancestor, immediately turned around, took out his flying sword, stepped on it, and rushed out of the dark place. Sword Ancestor quietly looked in the direction he left in, his eyes flickering. After a long while, he let out a breath of turbid air. Chapter 629. Crash. A clear voice sounded in Hu Qianmei's ears. With a pale face, she slightly opened her peach blossom eyes and looked around. She saw that she was no longer in the dark, dark place, but in front of the gate of nature, which was formed by countless giant trees. At this moment, countless spirit cultivator-s and spirit beasts were gathered around the gate of nature. They were divided into two groups, one with their backs against the gate of nature, the other with a ring surrounding the gate of nature so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak out. Hu Qianmei pursed her lips, wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and her gaze landed in front of the lady dressed in green. Vaguely, she still remembered that this lady seemed to be the one who saved her brother. Could it be that she was here because of her? Without waiting for Hu Qianmei to speak, an old man at the side shouted, "No wonder you asked us to hand over Xiao Huailin's corpse. So you plan to use the remaining qi on the corpse to track down the person who killed Xiao Huailin, and then use the spatial transmission to kill. In the end, he is a person from the sword world, so vicious." The one who spoke was Romyuk. "Don't think that you're the only one who knows how to transmit images through the air. Jin Maluo, although you are strong compared to us realm masters, you are still lacking by more than a little. Jin Maluo, this is the Wanhua realm. You are not allowed to act recklessly. Whatever you want to do, you have to ask for our permission." The realm tree ministers were all filled with righteous indignation. But Jin Maluo, who was on the other side, was not angry. He looked at Hu Qianmei, who was on the other side, quietly, and said indifferently, "This person killed my grandson. Should I not take her life? A life for a life. It is only right and proper. Do I even need your consent?" However, the words that the realm master said next made everyone speechless. "Xiao Huailin wantonly killed people in the Wanhua realm. She has committed a grave sin. According to the rules of my Wanhua realm, even if she does not kill Xiao Huailin, I will still kill her." The realm master spoke calmly, as if she was talking about a very ordinary small matter. But the moment he said this, Xiao Changtian and the rest were enraged, their hatred soaring to the sky. This was a complete and naked provocation. "Realm Master, what do you mean by that? Could it be that you, the people of the Wanhua realm, do not have our all-empty sect in your eyes?" Xiao Changtian snorted. "Everything in the world is equal. No one can wantonly take away the life of another unless that person owes the life of another." The realm master was as calm as ever. Xiao Changtian was getting angrier and angrier. The hand that was holding onto the greatsword was trembling, as though he could not control it. "I think you guys don't know how to appreciate favors." Phoenix Lady gritted her teeth and shouted, then said to Jin Maluo, who was in front, "Father, why are we still wasting words with them? Since the people of Wanhua realm are so pedantic, we can just rush over and take revenge for Huailin first." "Right, let's avenge young Master Huailin first. Let's kill them, Elder." The people of all empty sect all cried out in a low voice, their faces filled with anger. Then Jin Maluo raised his hand, signaling Phoenix Lady not to be rash. "Daughter, things are not as simple as you think. If it was the Wanhua realm of the past, I would not be afraid of them, but this realm master is not simple. With just our strength, we are temporarily not a match for the Wanhua realm. What are you afraid of? Father, if we were to suffer a loss, how could the people of Cloud Heavenly Palace let this matter rest? Indeed, they will not give up, but it will be very difficult for the Cloud Heavenly Palace to contend against the Wanhua realm. If they really fight, most likely both sides will suffer." "Then, Father, you mean Huailin is dead, so we naturally have to take revenge. However, this is also an opportunity, a chance for us to obtain the Wanhua realm. I am here on the orders of the Palace Master to bring the experts of the Heavenly Palace here. I naturally have my own plans. Don't make a sound." Jin Maluo said to Phoenix Lady in a low voice, then turned his gaze and stared at Realm Master. "Realm Master, you are not willing to cede the land, and you are not willing to hand over the person. In that case, you are not planning to take responsibility for my grandson, Xiao Huailin's death? If that's the case, then that won't do. If the Wanhua realm wants to ignore us, then we might have no choice but to start a war. Maybe we might not be able to completely defeat you, but to destroy more than half of the Wanhua realm is not a difficult matter. Hearing that, the realm master was silent for a moment, then said indifferently, "What does Elder Jean plan to do? Give up the land and hand it over." It seems like you didn't hear what I said before. Realm master, don't be angry. This is only the prerequisite. Jean Maluo said indifferently, "You are not willing to agree to our conditions, and we will not agree to your conditions either. Since that's the case, in my opinion, why don't we follow the rules of the Sword World to settle this matter? How about it?" Rules of the Sword World? Realm Master's eyebrows twitched. What rules are they? Life and death duel. A total of 3 matches. If we win, we will give the area around Linglong Mountain to my Cloud Heavenly Palace and hand over the Fox Demon. Leave it to me. If you win, we will immediately leave the Wanhua realm, and this matter will be written off. We will never pursue any further responsibility in the Wanhua realm. Realm Master said seriously and solemnly. With that said, the people of Realm Tree looked at each other. This was a good idea. The Realm Master's strength was the most profound. If she went up for a while, she would win 1 round, 2 out of 3, and as long as she won 1 more round, the Wanhua realm would be able to win the duel. Many people secretly nodded their heads, thinking that they could use this method to solve the problem. After all, no one was willing to fight. This kind of battle where hundreds of thousands of spirit cultivators mixed together, the consequences would be extremely serious. Even the Realm Master would not be willing to start a war. Once the war started, at least, everything near the Gate of Nature would be destroyed. Both sides send 3 people to duel. The Realm Master asked indifferently. That's right, but it's not a best of 3, but a best of 3. Any side that wins 3 rounds first will be considered to have won, and the difference in cultivation between the two must not be more than 2 stages. Jean Maluo said indifferently. Hearing that, the people of the Realm Master all went silent. When all 3 rounds. Furthermore, the difference in cultivation between the 2 sides was not more than 2 stages. Did the people of the Sword World rely on such rules to fight? This method is very fair. It prevents the opponent's cultivation from being too strong and crushing the battle. Rong Myuk nodded his head and said, "Realm Master, we will agree to their request. The people of my Wanhua realm are all very strong. All of them are very outstanding. There is no need to be afraid of the people of the Sword World. This place is close to the Gate of Nature. The spirit life chi is dense. Fighting here is very beneficial to us." That's right, Realm Master. Agree to fight with them. If we refuse, they will definitely mock us for having no one in the Wanhua realm. Let's fight. We're not afraid. The ministers of the Realm Tree all walked over and cupped their fists. Almost everyone agreed with Jean Maluo's suggestion. There was no doubt that this method was fair just from the literal meaning of it. However, Realm Master shook her head. "I refuse." Jean Maluo frowned. The Realm Tree ministers were even more surprised. "Realm Master, why is that?" Rong Myuk was stunned. But Realm Master did not say anything. "Realm Master, I've already given you all a chance. If you're not willing to cherish it, then don't blame us." Jean Maluo's temper had obviously been worn away by the Realm Master, and he said coldly, "If this method is unacceptable, then we can only fight. The Realm Tree is the source of the Wanhua realm. In order to avenge my grandson Xiao Huailin, when the battle starts, I will definitely use all my strength to destroy the Realm Tree. As the foundation, once the Realm Tree was destroyed, it was only a matter of time before the Wanhua realm declined. Think about it carefully." With that said, the faces of the people on the Realm Tree's side all turned pale. If that was really the case, then the Wanhua realm would truly fall into an unprecedented crisis. Although Jean Maluo was the 13th clan elder of the Cloud Heavenly Palace, his methods were extremely powerful, and as an expert that was 1 in 10,000, he definitely had the qualifications to say such words. After Rong Myuk and the rest heard this, they immediately became anxious. They surrounded Realm Master and shouted anxiously, "Realm Master, This is not the time to be impulsive. The other party has already shown forbearance. Why can't we show forbearance? Agree to fight them. We are not afraid. If you are still not willing to retreat, I am afraid that our Wanhua realm will never have a peaceful day. Realm Master, if we were to fight with them now, the only ones who would suffer would be us. Although the people of the true Devil realm are temporarily blocked, they are still eyeing our Wanhua realm covetously. If we were to fight with the all-empty sect and the Cloud Heavenly Palace, causing both sides to suffer, our Wanhua realm would still not be able to escape misfortune. Realm Master, please reconsider. The minister could not help but shout. After the Realm Master heard this, she became silent once again. After a long while, she sighed helplessly. Although this method seems to be very fair, but in reality, it is not fair to the people of my Wanhua realm. You all only see the surface, but do not know what Jean Maluo is planning. The duel actually has a huge advantage for the people of the sword world. They use the sword, their cultivation is secondary, their techniques are the main. Under the same cultivation, the experts of my Wanhua realm are definitely not their match. Furthermore, the people of the sword world fight all day. They are proficient in all kinds of duel techniques. If you fight with them, you will only suffer greatly. When the Realm Master's words fell, everyone was dumbstruck. However, what you said makes sense. Now that things have come to this, I have no other choice. Since that's the case, I can only take a gamble. Realm Master raised her head and said solemnly, Elder Jean, if that's the case, then all right, let's fight. Hearing that, a hidden glint flashed past Jean Maluo's eyes. Very good. Since it's decided, let's begin immediately. He nodded, then shouted, For the sake of fairness, let my Cloud Heavenly Palace's people send their disciples first. The Realm Master nodded lightly. Jean Maluo did not waste any time and immediately waved his hand. In that moment, a man wearing a white Blade Master outfit and holding a dark blue sword appeared behind him. The man flew out and landed in the sky. He cupped his fists towards Realm Master and Jean Maluo, then unsheathed his sword and pointed at the Wanhua realm. Third stage of Sky Spirit Master cultivation. Rong Myuk said, His strength is not high. Send a fifth stage Sky Spirit Master existence to fight. Realm Master, Prime Minister, let me fight this first round. Amidst the crowd, a Wanhua realm person jumped out and shouted loudly. This man was dressed in a green robe, his eyebrows and hair were dark green, his skin was slightly black, and his ears were slender and long, like an elf. He was the captain of the Realm Tree Guards, and his cultivation was just at the fifth stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Zhang Ye's cultivation is just at the fifth stage of the Sky Spirit Master. It is just right to deal with this person. Fine, you can try. If you can't beat him, surrender in time. Don't let him harm your life. Prime Minister Rong said in a low voice. Yes, sir. Chapter 630. Zhang Ye flipped his body and leaped into the air, standing opposite to the disciple of Cloud Heavenly Palace. The two of them brandished their weapons and prepared to fight. Zitao, let him experience the power of the Cloud Sword Art. Jean Maluo said indifferently, This disciple will definitely not fail his mission. The Cloud Heavenly Palace disciple called Zitao cupped his fists and shouted, then got into position. With a loud shout, the two of them began to fight with each other. Zitao's sword was extremely ferocious. With every move, he could release 100 sword chi-s, filling up everything in front of him, making it impossible for anyone to dodge. Zhang Ye used a wooden stick. The body of the stick released a gentle spirit life chi, growing endlessly. Every time he was cut by Zitao's sword, the spirit life chi on the wooden stick would quickly rush to the wounds on his body, quickly filling them up. Zitao's attack was like a rainbow. The profound chi in his entire body surged, like a churning river. It was difficult to calm down, but Zhang Ye was calm and collected, not anxious or impatient. He defended in an orderly manner. Even though his entire body was covered in sword wounds, he was able to recover within a few breaths of time, and looking at his steady breathing and calm expression, one could tell that he did not use much of the profound chi. If this continued, Zitao would definitely lose after exhausting all of his profound qi. Looks like we'll win the first round. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth raised slightly. The rules of the sword world are quite interesting. Whoever sends a contestant first, won't they lose first? After all, the other party would definitely send out existences higher than the second stage to fight. How huge was the difference between the two stages? Generally speaking, it is impossible for a low-rank existence to defeat a high-rank existence. Indeed, whichever side sends a contestant, the other side will definitely have the advantage. Not only that, whichever side wins, it will be very difficult to win the next round. After all, the other side will definitely send a contestant 2 ranks higher than them. But if we follow this order, we will be the first to obtain 3 victories. The final victory will definitely belong to us. Rongmyuk said solemnly. Ha! Then doesn't that mean we have victory in our hands? Everyone laughed heartily. Their faces were filled with joy. Don't think of things so simply. Just then, Realm Master, who was standing in front of everyone, suddenly spoke. These words were like a bucket of cold water pouring over everyone's heads. Is Realm Master worried about something? Rongmyuk asked. Since he dared to use such a method to fight with us, he must be confident. The victor hasn't been decided yet, so don't be happy too early, Realm Master said calmly. Hearing that, all the Realm Tree ministers were startled, but they all felt that it was reasonable and did not say another word. As expected, Zitao, who seemed to be fooled by Zhang Ye, suddenly turned around and pulled away from Zhang Ye. The two of them flew in the air, with a distance of more than 100 meters between them. He did not attack again, but closed his eyes, both hands holding onto the dark blue sword, as though he was accumulating some kind of profound technique. Zhang Ye's thick eyebrows twitched, feeling that something was wrong. He immediately raised his wooden rod and struck towards Zitao. The wooden rod approached Zitao, becoming incomparably huge, like a divine pillar that supported the heavens, smashing towards Zitao. Dong! Before the wooden stick could even get close to Zitao, an explosion suddenly sounded in front of Zhang Ye. The explosion was produced, the remaining power rippled, and a wave of qi formed from the profound qi, struck Zhang Ye's body. This profound qi was extremely strange. It did not injure his skin and flesh at all, but it seeped into his body, and like a sh*t stick, it caused the profound qi in his body to turn upside down, causing it to be difficult to calm down. Zhang Ye's body trembled violently. Cold sweat flowed down his back. He immediately retracted his move and stabilized the profound qi in his body. You've lost. The corner of Zitao's mouth raised into a complacent smile. He slashed his sword towards Zhang Ye. The sword transformed into a large amount of qi, like a rainbow cloud. It was extremely dazzling. Zhang Ye was instantly engulfed by the rainbow cloud. The sword shadows in the cloud flashed, and with a chi-chi sound, Zhang Ye's voice could no longer be heard. When the rainbow cloud dissipated, pieces of flesh and puddles of blood fell down, landing on the ground below. From the clothes stuck to the pieces of flesh and the broken wooden rod, it could be seen that it was Zhang Ye. Not even his 3 souls and 7 spirits remained. The people of the Realm Tree were all stunned. All of their mouths were wide open, as if they could stuff eggs in them. Their eyeballs seemed to be popping out of their sockets, unable to recover for a long time. How is this possible? One leaf, actually. Zhang Ye possesses the cultivation of the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master, and the other party is only at the 3rd stage. How many years would it take to cultivate for the difference of 2 stages, and how many fortuitous encounters would it take to make up for it? How could Zhang Ye be killed so easily by Zitao? This is absolutely impossible. This person called Zitao must have used some sort of trick. Lu Yuan regained his senses and shouted angrily. That's right. Otherwise, with Zhang Ye's dense spirit life qi, nothing would be able to kill him. No matter how heavy his injuries were, he could quickly heal them. How could he suddenly die? People of the Cloud Heavenly Palace, what despicable methods did you use? This match doesn't count. Furthermore, you must be responsible for Zhang Ye's death. The people of the realm tree could not accept such an outcome, and all of them started to shout loudly. However, Xiao Changtian sneered again and again and said, "Fighting and killing is not about whose cultivation is strong, whose cultivation is weak, but who is strong and who is weak. You only saw that Zi Tao's cultivation was inferior to Zhang Yi's, but you did not know that Zi Tao's overall strength was higher than Zhang Yi's. Spirit life, qi healed wounds? Didn't you notice that before Zhang Yi died, the profound qi had already been disturbed and was unable to gather it all, combined with the mysterious and mystical cloud sword art of the Cloud Heavenly Palace? Zhang Yi's death is not unjust." This, everyone was speechless. In terms of fighting experience, the people of the Wanhua realm were far inferior to the people of the Sword World. After all, the other party used battle as a method of cultivation and used continuous battles to strengthen themselves. At this moment, Rong Myuk and the rest were suddenly enlightened, and all of them broke out in cold sweat. The people of the Wanhua realm had always advocated peace, and in the Wanhua realm, other than the area around the Linglong Mountain, there are not many disputes that happened, and the people of the Wanhua realm rarely participated in battles. But the people of the Sword World were different. They fought every day, fought fiercely every day, slept in a pool of blood, rolled around in the mud, and never stopped. A person who had experienced hundreds of battles against a person who had extremely little battle experience. The gap between them was already very big and was enough to make up for the gap in cultivation between the two of them. No wonder the realm master refused. Rong Myuk looked deeply at the weak young lady dressed in green. Her wisdom and foresight had indeed convinced many people. But at this moment, the situation was so grim that it was not the time to express his admiration for the realm master. If Zhang Yi was defeated so quickly, then the remaining people would probably not be Zitao's match. After all, no matter how many people they sent, they would at most be at the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master, and would not be that high. So it turns out that Jean Maluo's method of resolving the matter was simply unfair. They had always been in a favorable position, Rong Myuk's side. What a despicable fellow. Lu Yuan gritted his teeth. As for Xiao Changtian and Phoenix Lady, they were extremely pleased with themselves. A bunch of people who only know how to boast all day long. How can they be our match? Even if their cultivation is 2 levels lower, it's enough to take care of you. Phoenix Lady hugged her chest and snorted in disdain. There are only a few experts in the Wanhua realm. The Starry Sky Sword Sovereign shook his head. The Tree Lord could not stand it any longer. It let out a melodious roar, but did not dare make a move. Once he did, the Wanhua realm would be in the wrong. Then, Jean Maluo could immediately return to the Sword World and join forces with a large number of sects to attack the Wanhua realm. Hu Qianmei, who had been sitting at the side the entire time, recovered a few breaths. She looked at the realm master who was in the air and said, "Hey, if you guys lose, you won't really hand me over, right?" Hearing that, the realm master turned her head to look at her and said indifferently, "Previously, when we were discussing, you did not object. I thought you had tacitly agreed. Hu Qianmei, if we lose, we can only do as we agreed, and there's nothing we can do. It can't be." Hu Qianmei immediately had a bitter face. From the looks of it, you guys can't beat him either. Even so, she still did not dare to complain to the realm master. After all, if not for the realm master, Hu Qianmei would have died a long time ago. Looking at the people around her with different expressions, her black eyes turned slightly, and her foxtail started to sway again, as if she was thinking about something. On the other side, Xiao Changtian had already shouted, "People of the Wanhua realm, you have already lost for a while. Who will come up to die next? Don't waste time. Hurry up and send someone." Phoenix Lady and the rest all had complacent expressions on their faces. "What's the hurry, sect leader Xiao?" Rong Myuk shouted, "Is there anyone who is willing to fight with the Sword World's thief?" However, as soon as he said that, the people of the realm tree fell silent. Those whose cultivation exceeded the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master did not have a right to participate, but those whose cultivation reached the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master did not dare to stand out. Everyone had seen Zhang Ye's fate. They understood their own strength. And if they could not even defeat Zhang Ye, how could they be Zi Tao's match? Seeing that no one stood out from the Wanhua realm's side, the Sword World side immediately burst into laughter. Where are the people of the Wanhua realm? Could it be that he was afraid of being beaten up by Zi Tao? Ha ha ha! What a bunch of turtles! You don't even have the guts. Hee hee. Why would a realm like the Wanhua realm exist until now? The people on the other side of the Sword World started to laugh mockingly. Jin Maluo could not help but speak up. Realm Master, if you don't hurry up and send someone to fight, then I can only judge that you have lost this round as well. With that said, the people of the Wanhua realm all had serious expressions. Hu Qianmei was even more nervous. Her small hands were clenched tightly together. Her palms were covered in sweat. People of Cloud Heavenly Palace, don't be too arrogant. Do you really think that there is no one in the Wanhua realm? Just at this moment, a shout came out, and a figure flew out from the group of Realm Trees. Chapter 631. Everyone followed the figure and saw that it was a woman in her 30s. She wore a purple robe and held a staff in her hand. Her face was filled with heroic spirit, and she was currently staring angrily at Xiao, Changtian, and the others, her face filled with indignation. Lu Hexen? Rong Muk exclaimed. Sister, what are you doing? Lu Yuan's expression changed drastically when he saw this. The one who went up on stage was Lu Yuan's sister, Lu Xian. Lu Xian did not hold any position in the realm tree. She was just cultivating there, and had just stepped into the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Although she was also at the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master, Lu Yuan knew very well that Lu Xian was not good at fighting, and having cultivation did not mean that she could fight. With Lu Xian's current strength, against the experienced Zi Tao, she did not have much of a chance of winning. I absolutely cannot tolerate the people of the Sword World trampling on my Wanhua realm. If I lose, the area around the Linglong Mountain will belong to the people of the Sword World. Cruel and merciless, bloodthirsty and warlike, once they are allowed to establish themselves in the Wanhua realm, the Wanhua realm will truly be destroyed. So, we definitely cannot let them succeed. Lu Xian's face was full of determination. Hearing these words, many of the realm tree people present were ashamed. Lu Xian was not the strongest among them, but she was the first to stand out. Lu Xian stared at Zi Tao with a serious expression. The spirit life qi in her body had already been activated. She didn't know if she could survive, so she had to give it her all. Lu Xian, at this time, the realm master who had been silent all this while suddenly spoke. Lu Xian turned her head and looked at Realm Master. If you can't win, the Realm Master was silent for a moment, then said, just give up, do you understand? Don't lose your life. The people of Sword World, all of them despise life and death. Give up? Lu Xian was taken aback, but she smiled and did not say anything. All right, stop wasting time. It'll be over soon anyway. Zi Tao was already impatient. After shouting a few words, he raised his dark blue sword and pointed it at Lu Xian. Can we start now? Come, Lu Xian said solemnly. Then I'll send you to hell. Zi Tao's expression suddenly turned sinister, and he shot forward like a bolt of lightning. Another incomparably ferocious offensive. Lu Xian immediately condensed an incomparably huge, profound shield and wrapped her body. The profound shield was thick, and its defense was astonishing. Zi Tao's series of attacks landed on the profound shield, but he was actually unable to break it. Lu Xian's profound energy was incomparably dense, and it was hard for Zi Tao to break through it easily. However, not being able to break it did not mean that Zi Tao had no chance of winning. Compared to profound strength, Zi Tao's strongest point was his rich battle experience. Since Jin Maluo dared to send him on stage, it was most likely because he had fought against existences whose cultivation was much stronger than his. After a series of attacks that put a lot of pressure on Lu Xian, Zi Tao retracted his sword and retreated, temporarily distancing himself from Lu Xian. Upon seeing this, Lu Xian immediately withdrew her profound shield and quickly stabilized her profound energy. Seeing this, Tao smiled disdainfully. Do you think I'll use the same method I used on Zhang Ye to deal with you? You're underestimating me too much. My methods are not limited to just that. With that said, the dark blue sword in Tao's hand danced in the air. With a wave of the sword, the wind and clouds changed color. The clouds and mist in the sky were affected by the sword and quickly gathered towards him. In the blink of an eye, layers of black clouds and mist gathered in the sky, and Liu Exin, who was below, felt the blood in his body churning crazily, the pressure increasing explosively, as though there was a huge mountain pressing down on his shoulder, making it difficult for him to breathe, and the activation of the profound strength had also slowed down. Liu Exin anxiously waved his staff and shouted with all his might, "Break!" Crack! The clouds in the sky immediately exploded and disappeared. The crisis was resolved. All right, the people from the Wanhua realm all clapped and cheered. I can't just defend. Liu Exin secretly clenched his teeth. He stared at Tao with a solemn gaze. He raised his staff and pointed. The head of the staff released a large amount of emerald green light. The light produced countless vines that covered Tao like a net. Tao's face changed. He immediately raised his sword and slashed. The surging sword chi spread out like a river, but when it smashed onto the vines, it was unable to cut through them. Although Tao's battle skills were strong, there was still a difference in cultivation. The strength of the profound chi was different, so how could he easily break through Liu Exin's profound technique? The vine net enveloped Tao, wrapping around him fiercely and quickly shrinking, binding his body. Tao tried his best to twist his body. The profound chi overflowed, but the vine was unimaginably strong. The attack cannot stop. Seeing that Tao was being suppressed, Liu Exin clenched his teeth again. He raised his staff and activated his technique. With Tao as the center, a large amount of ripples appeared in the surrounding space. Like a ripple, countless profound strengths appeared in the ripples. Following that, countless sharp vine spears shot out. With Tao as the center, they crazily attacked. Although Liu Exin's fighting experience was not as rich as Tao's, she was meticulous and intelligent. She understood her own strengths and weaknesses, and the only way for her to win was to avoid her weaknesses. Her cultivation was stronger than her opponent's, so she had to use her cultivation to suppress him, not giving him the slightest chance to catch his breath. Seeing that, Tao turned pale with fright. He immediately activated the magic treasure, causing his clothes to immediately expand by several times, forcefully supporting the vine net, protecting him. The vine spear attacked and struck the clothes, causing them to tremble uncontrollably. Tao's face was pale white. His face twisted as he tried his best to support the magic treasure. I've miscalculated. This Liu Exin is good at profound technique and not good at close combat. If this continues, I will only fall into a passive state. Tao, who was inside the huge clothes, thought. His entire body was trembling. The chi meridian on his arm was squeezed open. It was extremely difficult for him to persevere. The people outside were also shocked to the core. The people of Realm Tree opened their eyes wide, staring at the battle without blinking, while the people from Sword World had a solemn expression and did not say a word. Previously, when he killed Zhang Ye, he relied on his strong sword techniques. He thought that Liu Exin would think that he was strong in sword techniques and weak in profound technique. So when he fought with Liu Exin, he planned to use profound technique to kill Liu Exin. However, he did not know that in Liu Exin's eyes, he was no longer strong in sword techniques or weak in sword techniques, but strong in battle techniques. The opponent with strong battle techniques would definitely not slack off at all. That was why Tao's profound technique did not succeed. Now that he has fallen into such a passive situation, how can he turn defeat into victory? Phoenix Lady snorted again and again. She was extremely dissatisfied with Tao. If he loses this round, he doesn't need to come back. Jean Maluo said indifferently. The rules of Sword World were cruel. In this kind of duel, to the people of Sword World, they were not allowed to surrender and admit defeat. Of course, the people of Wanhua Realm were exceptions. The vine spear crazily smashed towards Zitao's treasure clothes, and dong dong sound continuously sounded out. The treasure seemed to be imperial equipment, but it was only at the 30th rank and was unable to withstand Liu Xian's attack. Not long later, Zitao was gasping for breath. He had used up more than half of the profound qi and could no longer hold on. However, at this critical moment, Zitao made one last shocking decision. Broken sword. He kept the treasure close and held the dark blue sword tightly with both hands, sending all of his power into the sword. The sword was controlled, and the internal energy was detonated. The sword body exploded, and a terrifying ripple spread out from the sword body. Rumble! A violent explosion sounded in the air. The treasured sword exploded. Zitao activated the treasured clothes on his body in the blink of an eye, intending to counteract the explosion. But the power of the explosion was extremely terrifying. Not only did it shatter the treasured sword, it also shattered Zitao's treasured clothes, causing him to be severely injured, and even the vine net that was binding him was smashed into pieces. Liu Xian was not spared either. She was struck by the shockwave and flew out, falling to the ground. When she crawled up, she spat out a small mouthful of blood. Even so, compared to Zitao, her condition was much better. At this moment, Zitao's entire body was in tatters. There was a large hole in his chest, and his arms and thighs were missing several large pieces of meat. Even his dense white bones were exposed, and the profound qi in his entire body was unimaginably weak. Victory! Seeing the situation, Lu Yuan could not help but shout out excitedly. What is Zitao doing? He actually used this kind of life and death method to break free. With his current state, can he still continue fighting? Looks like this battle is in the bag. It's finally over. A trace of a smile appeared on the people of Realm Tree's face. Seeing the situation, all of them heaved a sigh of relief. Liu Xian carried her staff and walked towards Zitao. She stared at Zitao without much pity in her eyes and was about to cast a spell to end Zitao. Wait, I surrender. Just then, Zitao suddenly raised his hand and called out weakly. Liu Xian's movements froze, and her hand movements also stopped. But in that split second, a trace of ruthlessness flashed past Zitao's eyes. His body suddenly moved and instantly appeared beside Liu Xian, spitting out a sword light from his mouth, directly attacking Liu Xian. Liu Xian was shocked. She immediately cast a spell to block, and a shield made of vines appeared in front of her. However, the shield could not block the sword light at all, and was directly pierced through. The sword light was like a hot knife through butter, piercing through Liu Xian's main chi meridian. Liu Xian's body twitched a few times and fell to the ground. Such a sudden change shocked everyone. I surrender. I surrender. Zitao laughed nonstop and shouted with all his might. The chi meridian was damaged, and Liu Xian was crippled. Although Zitao could no longer defeat Liu Xian, his sudden sneak attack had won the absolute victory for the next participant. This is the power of origin. Despicable. You actually dared to stab me in the back. Liu Yuan was enraged. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He wanted nothing more than to rush up and tear Zitao apart. The people of Realm Tree was in an uproar. No one would have thought that the people of Sword World would be so unscrupulous. Zitao had surrendered, and this victory belonged to the Wanhua realm. However, according to the rules, Liu Xian, who had his chi meridian forcefully broken, was no longer able to participate in the next battle. In other words, the victory of the next battle would definitely belong to the Cloud Heavenly Palace. Such an action caused the people of Realm Tree to gnash their teeth in anger. Chapter 632. Although Zitao did not win this battle, he seemed to have won even though he lost. Liu Yuan rushed over and brought the heavily injured Liu Xian back. Zitao's attack had already used his source energy, using his own cultivation as the price to unleash an extraordinary power. It was afraid that the current Zitao's cultivation had already dropped greatly, and he did not even have a Sky Spirit Master. But the situation was pressing on. If he did not do this, and directly admitted defeat, he was afraid that when he returned to Jean Maluo's side, he would be punished by Jean Maluo and then killed. Therefore, he staked everything on one throw. He would rather cripple himself in exchange for such an outcome. At the very least, he would be able to preserve his life. No one at the scene would have thought that Zitao would be so vicious and make such a counterattack. The situation was instantly reversed. Liu Xian was carried away by Liu Yuan and quickly treated. Although Liu Xian's Qi Meridian was only damaged, what attacked the Qi Meridian was Zitao's source energy. This power was extremely difficult to remove, and even if Liu Xian was cured, her cultivation would still be damaged. Zitao dragged his heavily injured body and slowly flew in front of Jean Maluo. He knelt down on one knee and cupped his fists. "Elder, this disciple has let you down. I did not defeat him. Please bestow the death penalty on this disciple." Seeing that, Jean Maluo extended his hand to help Zitao up and said, "Although you have failed, you have laid the foundation for our victory. You are not guilty. You have done well." Hearing this, Zitao's nervous expression immediately calmed down. "Quick, help Zitao down and let him recuperate," Jean Maluo said indifferently. "Yes, Elder." A disciple walked over from behind, supporting Zitao as they walked towards the world-crossing bridge. Jean Maluo turned his head and looked at the bridge quietly. After a moment of silence, he did not say anything in the end. Zitao's performance surprised many people present. The people from the Nebula Sword Pavilion, the swordsmanship-seeking sect, and the Luotong sect all revealed astonished expressions. In the end, he was someone taught by the Cloud Heavenly Palace. Even if he lost, he could still lose in such a spectacular manner. Now it's one win and one loss. Let's quickly move on to the third match. The corner of Xiao Chongtian's mouth raised into a cold smile, his eyes filled with viciousness. Jean Maluo did not stand on ceremony. He waved his hand and said indifferently, "Ziming, Elder Disciple is here." Another person walked out from the Cloud Heavenly Palace. This person was very delicate, and his figure was also very thin and small, like a young man who had yet to experience the world. He held onto a thin and short sword and cupped his fists as he bowed to Jean Maluo. "Don't be like Zitao and humiliate our Cloud Heavenly Palace," Jean Maluo said indifferently. "Disciple will definitely not disappoint Elder's high hopes for this disciple." After the spirit cultivator called Ziming finished speaking, he jumped out and stood in the middle of the two groups of people. Everyone looked over. It was actually just a third-stage Sky Spirit Master existence. What is this? Rong Myuk did not understand. Liu Xian has a fifth-stage Sky Spirit Master existence. They can completely send a seventh-stage Sky Spirit Master expert to fight. Why would they send a third-stage disciple? They're trying to cut off our source of people. The Realm Master said indifferently, "If they send a seventh-stage expert to fight, then we will definitely send a ninth-stage expert to fight. I have a lot of ninth-stage experts in the Realm Tree, and among them, there are a lot of outstanding people at the peak, which is disadvantageous to them. If they continue to send third-stage disciples to fight, we can only send fifth-stage existences to fight, but now that Liu Xian is heavily injured and Zhang Ye has died miserably, there are not many outstanding fifth-stage cultivators left, and we cannot send any more experts, which is beneficial to them." Damn it! After Rong Myuk heard this, he was so angry that he raised his wooden staff. How can these Cloud Heavenly Palace people be so cunning? They are indeed worthy of being battle-hardened. They have a unique eye for battle situations. In this aspect, we are indeed inferior to them. The Realm Master said indifferently, and then her clear voice became louder, and she said, "Liu Xian is heavily injured and is unable to fight. We admit defeat in this match." As these words fell, it did not surprise many people. Even though there were still some sounds coming out, there was no need to explain. Liu Xian had injured her Qi Meridian, so even if the Realm Master used her technique to treat her, she would not be able to recover in a short period of time. When the Realm Master announced that they had admitted defeat, the people on the Realm Tree side all looked dejected and disappointed. There was only one last match left. If they won, they would still have a chance, but if they lost, they would be finished. If the Linglong Mountain area was really handed over to the Cloud Heavenly Palace, it would be equivalent to opening a door for the people of the Sword World. It would be equivalent to placing food in the mouth of Tiger, and in the future, the Wanhua realm would definitely be devoured by the Sword World. Ha ha ha! Since you have given up, then hurry up and send someone else on stage. There's only one match left. I don't think you have a chance either. If I were you, I would also admit defeat in this match, because it would be a waste of time and would only increase the number of casualties. Ha ha ha. Phoenix Lady laughed complacently. The anger on her face had long since disappeared. Seeing the people of the Wanhua realm all frowning and looking as if their parents had died, she felt extremely happy in her heart. As long as they could obtain the Linglong Mountain area, the all-empty sect and the Cloud Heavenly Palace will be able to enter the Wanhua realm in the future, and at that time, they would slowly nibble away at them. People of the Wanhua realm, I must slaughter all of you to sacrifice to my son's spirit. Phoenix Lady thought viciously in her heart. Looks like the all-empty sect and the Cloud Heavenly Palace are going to make a huge profit this time. I wonder how many resources they can obtain after obtaining the area around the Linglong Mountain, especially the Dark Place, which is a gate that leads to the Myriad Heavens realm. Many realms do not have any coordinates, and even if they use the Realm Crossing Bridge, they cannot go there. But the Dark Place is different. As long as they can find the exact crack, they can easily step into the realm and obtain even more resources. It is simply a treasure trove. Starsword Sovereign said to Dao Xing, who was beside him. Dao Xing secretly nodded his head. Luckily, we accepted Brother Zhao's invitation to come here. This can be considered a favor. In the future, when we enter the Wanhua realm to obtain resources, with this layer of relationship, it will be much more convenient. That's right. As they whispered to each other, the realm tree naturally did the same. Jean Mayuo looked at the calm Realm Master and said, Then, Realm Master, where are the people you sent to fight? Why aren't you coming out yet? Realm Master did not make a sound. Rong Myuk and the rest did not make a sound. This last match would determine the fate of the Wanhua realm. Who would dare to act recklessly? Even those who were confident in their own strength did not dare to rashly fight. It was fine if they won, but what if they lost? Wouldn't that be the sinner of the Wanhua realm? Moreover, in the last round, there was not only one enemy, but two. To win the first round, he had to win in an overwhelming manner, because even if he defeated Zi Ming, the opponent would definitely send a 7-stage existence to fight in the final battle. In other words, the opponent that the person on stage was facing was a 7-stage expert, and the Zi Ming in front of him, two rankers among the people of Realm Tree, which 5th-stage cultivator had the strength to do so. Even Rong Myuk did not dare to rashly send people up on stage. The atmosphere became awkward. The people from the Sword World had already started laughing. Seeing the people from the Wanhua realm in such a distressed state, they all laughed out loud. From their point of view, the people of Realm Tree had no choice. They were at the end of their rope. Since no one is going up, let me do it. Finally, a crisp voice broke the awkward atmosphere. Everyone's nerves twitched as they hurriedly looked towards the source of the voice. However, with just a glance, everyone was stunned. The one who spoke was actually the one who was sitting cross-legged behind the Realm Master. Fox Demon, Uchime. Her face was slightly pale, and there was a little blood stain under her pink lips. She opened her bright and determined eyes and stared at Zi Ming, who was in the air, and could not help but pull out the curved blood sword from her waist. You want to go on stage? The Realm Master turned her head and asked softly. Since none of you can go up, even if you win against this person, you will definitely not be able to win against the opponent they send out for the next round. Since that's the case, why don't you let me fight? I will die anyway, so wouldn't it be better for me to drag one of them down with me? Hu Qianmei revealed a bitter smile. However, she was a little absent-minded. At this moment, her heart was not occupied by fear. What filled her heart was the figure of a person. I'm sorry, she muttered softly and took a deep breath. A few tears flowed out from the corner of her eyes. He had come here to find that person, but just as he was reunited with him, he had to separate again. Hu Qianmei was in unbearable pain. But at that moment, he had no other choice. She actually did not want to die, because if she died, Su Yun's inherent skill would also be crippled. But today, was there any other way? The people of Sword World all looked at Hu Qianmei. Phoenix Lady snorted coldly. Is this fox demon going on stage? All right, Ziming, just destroy her body and use your soaring fire sword to seal her 3 souls and 7 spirits. I want to keep her 3 souls and 7 spirits to slowly torture. Yes, madam. Ziming cupped his fists and said, Torture me? Huh, let's see if you have the ability. Hu Qianmei's eyes suddenly opened wide, killing intent overflowing. However, just as she was about to enter the arena, a hand suddenly grabbed her arm. Hu Qianmei was startled, then sighed and said, Realm Master, don't stop me. Let me go. I didn't stop you. The gentle voice of the Realm Master floated over from behind. Hu Qianmei was startled. He suddenly sensed something. He suddenly turned his head, only to see a familiar face reflected in his eyes. Su Yun. Hu Qianmei was stunned. The man was panting. The profound qi around his body was in a mess, and his face was covered in sweat, as if he had just experienced a great battle. At this moment, he was looking at Hu Qianmei with a stern and reproachful gaze. You, why are you here? Hu Qianmei muttered. Her small head could not help but lower. After you're taken away by the Realm Master, I guessed that you would be here, so I rushed all the way from Linglong Mountain. Su Yin said, Qianmei, what are you doing? Are you going to die? There's no other way. Hu Qianmei bit her lips lightly and said, Let me bear the responsibility for the trouble that I caused. If you die, I will definitely be implicated. Although your cultivation is high, you are heavily injured, so it is inconvenient for you to continue fighting. So I will go. Su Yun grabbed Hu Qianmei's arm and directly threw him towards the Realm Master. He then took a step forward, stepped on his flying sword, and flew over, directly standing in front of Ziming. I represent the Wanhua realm in battle, he shouted in a low voice, his expression extremely sinister. Chapter 633. Seeing Su Yun appear, the people of Realm Tree were surprised, especially Lu Yuan and the rest. Their expressions froze. It's Lord Su Yun. Lord Su Yun? Why is he here? But what is he doing here at this time? Is he going to fight? It is said that he is only at the 3rd stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Fighting is courting death. Realm Master, quickly bring him back. If we let him fight, we really won't have any chance of winning. Minister Yang Lang shouted. All empty sex people looked at each other. Xiao Chantian looked at Jean Maluo, then looked at Realm Master, and said, Is this person from your Wanhua realm? Right now. Without waiting for Realm Master to speak, Su Yun shouted, Then, you'll be the one to fight in this competition? Xiao Chantian said coldly, No, he can't fight. Without waiting for Su Yun to speak, the group of ministers led by Yang Lang immediately shouted. But just as they finished speaking, Realm Master raised Su Bai's hand, indicating for them to be quiet. Xiao Chantian and Phoenix Lady's faces changed. Xiao Chantian was extremely dissatisfied and shouted, What are you guys doing? If you want to fight, then fight. If you want to fight, then fight. Don't waste time. Who's going to fight? Hurry up and say it. Everyone in the Realm Tree knew of Su Yun's strength, although there was a 3rd stage of the Sky Spirit Master. But in this kind of situation, a 3rd stage of the Sky Spirit Master was not enough. Voices of opposition rose and fell. Countless people shouted for Su Yun to come back. But just then, Realm Master opened her mouth. Her voice was gentle, but her expression was focused. He represents our Wanhua realm in this final battle. Hearing Realm Master's words, Yang Lang and the rest were stunned. Pairs of astonished eyes looked at her. All right. Xiao Chantian nodded his head. He glanced at Su Yun and snorted. This person is probably not even comparable to Liu Exine. It seems like your Wanhua realm has no one else. Victory is in my hands. Phoenix Lady's lips curled up slightly. Then, she gave Star Cloud's sword Venerable and the others a look. Everyone nodded in understanding. Hearing that, Su Yun leaped out. The Realm Tree was buzzing. No one could understand why Realm Master would do such a thing. and sighs could be heard continuously. Perhaps, at this moment, many people's hearts had already died and they had completely given up on this fight. Only Prime Minister Rongmyuk walked to the side of the Realm Master and cupped his fists. Realm Master, you once said that the Realm Tree had given you instructions that Su Yun would participate in a crisis in our Wanhua realm. Could it be that you are referring to this time? I don't know. Realm Master shook her head lightly. However, as matters stand, there is no one else to choose from. Placing their hopes on Su Yun is far greater than the other fifth stage sky spirit master cultivators of the Realm Tree. Oh, why? Rongmyuk did not understand. Because the magic treasure in his hands is enough for him to fight against any fifth stage sky spirit master existence. The Realm Master said lightly. Rongmyuk still did not understand. But at this moment, the battle on the other side was about to start. Since the Realm Master had spoken, the people of the Realm Tree could only give up. Their eyes were extremely nervous as they looked at Su Yun. They did not understand why the future fate of the Wanhua realm would be entrusted to someone who was not from the Wanhua realm. But since things had already come to this, they could only hope that Su Yun would live up to their expectations and defeat this person called Ziming. However, even if he was defeated, would the people behind him be able to defeat him? Su Yun's opponent was not just one person. Su Yun has fought a few battles in the Linglong Mountain. I'm afraid that his current condition is not his best. Against this person, his chances of winning are not high. Rongmyuk said. When everyone heard this, they became even more worried. The disciple from the Cloud Heavenly Palace, Ziming, looked at Su Yun who was in front of him and revealed a smile on his young and tender face. Hello. Please advise me. Hearing that, Su Yun frowned but did not make a sound. He pulled out the death sword, held it with one hand, and pointed the sword tip at the man. My name is Ziming. Please remember this name. Remember this person. The man called Ziming continued to smile as he spoke. He was not angry. He only maintained a smile on his face. Because this person is about to kill you. With that said, Ziming's body moved, and he leaned toward Su Yun. However, he did not raise his sword to attack. Instead, he held onto the sword hilt with both hands and quickly spun around Su Yun. What caused people to tremble with fear was that the profound qi around Ziming's body was like a poisonous snake, attacking Su Yun on its own, like many sharp blades, slashing towards Su Yun's body. Su Yun raised his sword to block. The death sword's sword body released the evil soul. The sword and soul quickly danced, and a clanging sound immediately sounded in the air. Su Yun's expression was sinister. He did not reveal the slightest bit of weakness, but instead calmly faced the attack, and as time passed, the speed at which he swung his sword became faster and faster. The storm-like attacks were simply suffocating. Seeing that, Ziming immediately withdrew the profound strength and retreated, pulling a distance away from Su Yun. I didn't expect you to have such speed. It seems like I've underestimated you. Ziming laughed. The playfulness in his eyes gradually disappeared. I was replaced with seriousness. Never underestimate your opponent. That's what I've always done. Su Yun said coldly. His left hand touched the sword sheath and took out the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword. Both swords danced together, and like a whirlwind, they swung towards Ziming. Ziming smiled, both of his hands still holding onto the slender sword. He continued to dodge. Su Yun's two swords were incomparably powerful. A streak of black lightning and a streak of red lightning alternated around his body. But no matter how terrifying Su Yun's attack was, or how astonishing his speed was, Ziming seemed to know the trajectory of his sword, and always managed to dodge it without any danger. Fast? No, Ziming's speed was not fast, but he was extremely agile. It was as if he had already seen through Su Yun's sword technique. Just as the sword was about to reach him, he had already made a dodging motion. It was as if he had predicted it. Is that all you can do? If that's the case, then it's impossible for you to defeat me. Ziming laughed. Suddenly, a ruthless glint flashed past his eyes, both of his hands holding onto the thin sword. He slashed through the air. Clang! The thin sword fiercely slashed onto the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword's body. The seemingly thin and brittle sword actually erupted with an unprecedented powerful force. Su Yun was caught off guard and was directly sent flying by the force. He flew back a few thousand meters and fiercely fell to the ground, creating a huge crater. "Hey kid, are you alright?" A deep and resounding voice came out from Su Yun's side. He turned to look and saw that the one who spoke was the Tree Lord. "I won't die yet." Su Yun crawled up, stabilized the turbulent qi in his body, and looked at Zi Ming, who was leisurely walking in the air. Such great power! If this sword were to land on his body, it would probably shatter his flesh. Not only was this person agile, his strength was also astonishing. No wonder Jean Maluo sent him up. Such a difficult opponent. Even an existence at the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master would find it difficult to deal with. Su Yun's gaze swept across Zi Ming's body. Compared to the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master, this person's profound strength was like heaven and earth, but his profound strength did not need to be used for destruction, but for movement techniques. To kill his opponent, he only needed to rely on the thin sword in his hand. Although it was only a single strike, Su Yun could feel that the terrifying power came from the sword, and not from Zi Ming himself. If he dodged the sword, he would be able to kill him. Su Yun thought and rushed forward again. Activating the Divine Wind Sword technique, the two swords in his hands swept out without a shadow, the sword intent surrounding Zi Ming tightly. Such a shocking speed naturally caused the pressure on Zi Ming to increase. But he still maintained his smile and dodged Su Yun's sword in an extremely dangerous manner. He couldn't cut it. He couldn't cut it all. No matter how fast he was, he couldn't touch him in the slightest. This was definitely not because of his speed. Before his sword could even reach him, he had already reacted. Could it be that he had really seen through his sword technique? Su Yun's eyes turned cold. He stared at Zi Ming's neck, and the death sword fiercely slashed horizontally. A wave of killing intent erupted from the death sword body, covering it like a wall. Seeing that, Zi Ming did not dodge this time, but swung his sword to slash. He cleverly avoided the incoming death sword, and the slender sword stuck close to the sword body, directly thrusting towards Su Yun's chest. It pierced towards the main qi meridian on his chest. "This is bad." The realm tree people who were watching from the side cried out in alarm. Zi Ming was small and skinny, and the thin sword in his hand was also very short. But this was not his disadvantage, but his advantage. This made him even more suitable for close combat, especially against swordsmen. At such a close distance, he could dodge his opponent's attacks more easily, and from this small gap, he could get close to his opponent's flaws and deliver a fatal blow. And now, it was time for Zi Ming to succeed. Su Yun waved both of his swords. His chest was wide open. Zi Ming immediately stuck close to him. At this time, even if Su Yun reacted and defended, it would be too late. No one would have thought that this person would be so nimble. He was simply like an all-pervasive fly. "It's over." Zi Ming laughed softly, his thin sword thrusting forward. "Not yet." Just then, Su Yun shouted coldly. Immediately after, the target of Zi Ming's attack suddenly disappeared, and the slender sword pierced through the air. "What?" Zi Ming was startled. Suddenly, a cold wind blew behind him. It was bone-chilling. He subconsciously raised his thin sword to block it. The thin sword erupted with astonishing power as it collided with the incoming sword. Clang! The sound of an explosion rang out in the air. It was just that, this time, Su Yun did not fly away. Everyone looked up, only to see that what welcomed Zi Ming's sword this time was not the blood-red, immortal, mystical scarlet blood sword, but the pitch-black death sword. The death sword and the slender sword's blade were stuck closely together, and the evil soul that jumped out from the sword was grabbing onto the sword with both hands. "What?" Zi Ming turned pale with fright. He immediately urged his qi to draw his sword. However, the sword did not move at all. Although Su Yun and he were both at the 3rd stage of the Sky Spirit Master, Su Yun's profound qi was even thicker than the 4th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. All of Zi Ming's power came from this strange slender sword, and his own profound qi was only a swift wind spirit qi, and was good at speed, so his strength was not great. How could he fight against Su Yun? Ziming tried his best to pull it out twice, but to no avail. In the next second, Su Yun had already rushed over with the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword. Chapter 634. Seeing that, how could Ziming dare to continue fighting with Su Yun? He immediately made a decision, let go of the sword in his hand, and anxiously dodged. He retreated 100 meters, and the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword missed. Even so, the situation of the battle was already very clear. The opponent did not even have a sword. Could it be that Su Yun cannot win? However, this time, the people of Realm Tree did not dare to reveal any more joy. In the previous round, Liu Xian's huge advantage was forcefully pulled back by Zi Tao. And this time, Ziming had only lost the weapon in his hands. It was hard to guarantee that he did not have any other methods. Sure enough, although Ziming had lost his sword, he did not reveal the slightest bit of fear. He only smiled at Su Yun, and then quickly formed a seal with both of his hands. Looking at his posture, he was shocked to see that he had activated some profound skill. Our Cloud Heavenly Palace has countless absolute arts. Originally, I did not plan to use this move, but since you have forced me to this extent, I have no choice but to use it. Ziming laughed. However, it was different from his previous smile. His current smile was filled with coldness, and it was a smile that contained killing intent. As he formed the seal, the profound chi around his body started to move quickly, and with his body as the center, it quickly condensed, as though a layer of frost had formed. Seeing that, Jean Maluo's eyes lit up. "Father, can we win?" Phoenix Lady walked over and asked softly. 90% sure. Jean Maluo directly threw out these 4 words. He stared at Ziming and said in a deep voice, "Ziming is my direct disciple. Although he has not been in the sect for long, the talent he has displayed is extraordinary. His profound chi is very special, although it is of the swift wind spirit chi attribute. But this swift wind spirit chi is different from the previous swift wind spirit chi. He can freely control the profound chi to attack the enemy. He does not need to use any magic treasure or moves. He can also use the flow of his own profound chi to sense the opponent's attack trajectory. This is why his speed is not as fast as that person, but he can easily dodge his sword moves. To us, Ziming's profound chi is like a living creature. This is related to his special physique. Actually, to him, the sword was not his true method, but this profound chi was what he relied on. Now, he was going to use his sect's ultimate technique, the profound chi's materialization. This move was no small matter. The battle is going to end soon. Phoenix Lady nodded, her gaze once again landing on Ziming's body. Su Yun seemed to have felt the power of Ziming's move. He immediately kept the immortal mystical scarlet blood sword, raised his arm, stared at Ziming, and started to chant, and also started to use the profound skill. The profound strength around the man's body had already condensed to the size of a small mountain, and was suffused with a deep blue color, gradually transforming into the shape of a demon god. It was extremely ferocious, and even at a distance of 100 meters, Su Yun could feel the terrifying profound chi overflowing from the demon god's body. Looking at the terrifying demon god that was slowly forming beside Ziming, the people of Realm Tree were all worried. Yang Lang could not stand it any longer and immediately shouted, "Su Yun, what are you still standing there for?" With such a dense, profound strength, he must be activating some incredible profound technique. Why aren't you making your move to attack? Could it be that you want to wait for him to activate the profound technique before you make your move? However, Yang Lang's words were like playing the lute to a cow. Su Yun did not move and continued to urge his magic. He ignored all of the anxious warnings. Did he give up? Everyone sighed inwardly. Sword World's side was filled with laughter. The Realm Master watched on calmly, without any ripples, without any expression. "Little girl, when this kid loses, let's make our move." Just then, a deep voice sounded out in Realm Master's mind. Realm Master tilted her head and looked at the big tree in the distance. The voice came from the Tree Lord. "This kid has lost. We can't really see the Linglong Mountain area to the all-empty sect, right? If that's the case, the Wanhua realm will be destroyed. The Tree Lord's voice was a little worried. Of course, Realm Master secretly activated the profound strength and transmitted her voice to the Tree Lord through telepathy. She said coldly in her heart, "Although I did not keep my word and destroyed the reputation of the Wanhua realm, if I can protect the countless lives of the Wanhua realm, I would rather let the people of the world scold me." Hearing that, the Tree Lord secretly nodded. "You really did not disappoint your master." Realm Master did not say a word. She stared at the battle, her slender eyebrows knitted together. "Looks like victory is in my grasp." On Sword World's side, the corner of Phoenix Lady's mouth curled up into a complacent smile. Looking at the demon god gradually taking shape and the indifferent Su Yun, she laughed even more happily. "It's still too early to say that." Xiao Changtian, who was at the side, shook his head. Phoenix Lady was startled. She turned to look, only to see that her husband's face was filled with seriousness. "Changtian, what are you worried about? My father said that he would definitely win this round. Could it be that you saw something?" Phoenix Lady asked. "That guy called Su Yun is not an idiot. He should be able to feel the terror of Ziming's move. But not only did he not retaliate, he did not even reveal a look of fear or panic. I'm worried that he has a backup plan. A move." Phoenix Lady sneered. "So what? Can he still continue to jump around?" Roar. At this moment, a trembling and vigorous roar exploded in the gate of nature. The air shook, the earth shook, and a terrifying sound wave that caused one's mind to become numb spread out in all directions. Countless people did not cover their ears, feeling extremely uncomfortable all over their bodies. Raising his head to look, he saw that the demon god with Ziming as the center had already been successfully formed. It was around 10 meters tall and dark blue in color. Its entire body was covered in armor, and it held a long sword in its hand. It had 7 eyes and an extremely large mouth that was connected to its cheeks. Within its mouth, its fangs were exposed, making it look extremely terrifying. "You dare to make me use this move? Should I say that you have courage, or should I say that you are ignorant?" Ziming laughed coldly. He then bellowed, urging the demon god to rush towards Su Yun. The demon god raised a gigantic blue sword in his hand and slashed down at Su Yun's head. When the blue sword approached Su Yun, it actually bloomed like a flower and swallowed Su Yun like a huge beast, beautiful and powerful. What? Such a horrifying scene had truly shocked countless people. However, just as the demon god was about to attack, a ray of profound strength shot out from Su Yun's arm and into the clouds. In that moment, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and struck Ziming's back. Ziming frowned. He felt that something had appeared behind him, but at the moment, Su Yun was right in front of him. How could he give up? Die! Ziming roared. "Be careful!" Just then, a series of loud shouts came from the sword world. Looking over, he saw that the faces of the people there were filled with stupidity. "Be careful? Are you talking to me?" Ziming was startled. However, before the demon god's sword that was like a flower of death could land, a gigantic hand suddenly grabbed onto the demon god's body and lifted it up along with Ziming. Ziming was immediately shocked. He suddenly turned his head, only to see that behind him, there was a giant the size of a small mountain. The giant's entire body was pale white, sturdy, like a skeleton. It opened its scarlet and terrifying eyes and stared at Ziming fiercely and coldly. The devil chi soared into the sky. The surging killing intent was like a silver river pouring down from the 9 heavens, sweeping towards this place. The power of the thing that Ziming had sacrificed was completely suppressed by the giant and could not be impudent at all. The demon god's dense and powerful profound chi tore apart the giant's palm like a blade, but was unable to cause the slightest bit of damage. How could the devil-bone giant that was made from Changgu and In-Mo be easily destroyed by Ziming? Ziming roared with all his might, pushing his profound chi to its limit in an attempt to break free from the giant's grasp. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was still struggling on the verge of death. The giant was like a five-fingered mountain, completely suppressing him. A fierce killing intent flashed past Su Yun's eyes. Without hesitation, he gave the order to the giant. The giant within his body let out a heaven-shaking roar. The gigantic hands suddenly merged into one, and a majestic force that could shatter mountains and rivers flowed from the palm towards Ziming's body, causing his body to instantly shatter, and the gigantic demon god around him to collapse like a collapsing mountain, disappearing in the blink of an eye. In less than a breath's time, this living person was crushed into a pile of minced meat. Ziming's soul overflowed and hovered in the air, not dissipating for a long time. The outcome of the battle was decided. Everyone was silent. A second ago, everyone thought that victory would definitely belong to Ziming, but in the next second, Ziming died miserably. This kind of drastic change was simply too much for anyone to adapt to. Su Yun raised his hand, shook it a few times, and the gigantic devil bone giant immediately disappeared. He gasped for breath, turned his head, and stared at the other side of the Sword World. At this moment, the people of Sword World were all dumbstruck. Their mouths seemed to be able to fit an entire egg. No one was not surprised. No one was not shocked. Everyone thought that Ziming's victory was already in his grasp, but he was actually crushed alive by Su Yun. He didn't even have a chance to resist. "What is that?" Xiao Changtian recovered from his shock and cried out involuntarily. "Such a heavy devil chi. It seems to be a divine object from the true devil realm." Jean Maluo's eyes congealed. He stared at Su Yun and shouted, "Young man, what is your relationship with the true devil realm? It doesn't matter what the relationship is. The important thing is that I won." Su Yun said. He was too lazy to waste words with this person. It was enough to protect Hu Qianmei. "So arrogant," Phoenix Lady said angrily. "Don't think that just because you won for a while, you can be lawless. If we want to kill you, it's like crushing an ant on the ground. Don't be too arrogant." Su Yun snorted, but did not say anything. This action made Phoenix Lady even more furious. "You're simply courting death." Phoenix Lady gritted her teeth, then turned her head and said to Jean Maluo, "Father, you have to help your daughter vent her anger. He's just a junior. Why be angry at him?" Jean Maluo shook his head lightly and said indifferently, "Furthermore, he won't be able to live for long." With that, Jean Maluo waved his hand again and shouted, "Where is Long Jiang? Disciple is here." A tall man walked out from the crowd and cupped his fists as he shouted. Right now, on both sides, there are 2 wins and 2 losses. This final battle is extremely crucial. You can replace our Cloud Heavenly Palace and fight this final battle. Jean Maluo said indifferently, "Yes, sir." After the man called Long Jiang finished speaking, he immediately flew out and stood in front of Su Yun. Chapter 635. When Phoenix Lady saw the people sent by Jean Maluo, she was startled at first, but then the corner of her mouth raised into a complacent smile. "Let's see how arrogant you are this time." Phoenix Lady stared at Su Yun and laughed sinisterly. "Phoenix, who is this Long Jiang?" Xiao Changtian asked. "Changtian, you don't know." Phoenix Lady laughed. "This Long Jiang was an expert of my Cloud Heavenly Palace in the past. Before I met you, when I was still in the Cloud Heavenly Palace, he was already a palace guard, and his cultivation was at the 10th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. He is an extremely talented person." 10th stage of the Sky Spirit Master? But he's only at the 5th stage of cultivation? Xiao Changtian was startled. He suddenly thought of something and said in shock, "Could it be?" "That's right." Phoenix Lady sneered. 30 years ago, because of an accident, Long Jiang's cultivation retreated greatly. Therefore, he was only at the 5th stage of the Sky Spirit Master. Even so, his fighting experience, the profound technique in his hands, and so on, were all things that only 10th stage cultivators should be able to grasp. The current him, although his cultivation had regressed, it was not difficult for him to fight against a 6th stage cultivator. Even if he met a 7th stage cultivator, he would still have the strength to fight. So how could a mere 3rd stage cultivator like Su Yun not be able to defeat him? Father is truly worthy of being called father. With Long Jiang supporting us, We will definitely win this round. Hearing these words, Xiao Changtian's worried heart finally calmed down. I was originally considering whether or not I should forcefully attack if I couldn't win. I never thought that father-in-law would have such a trump card. T.C. Changtian, my father has always done things flawlessly. Phoenix Lady snorted and said proudly. Long Zhang's appearance caused the people of Sword World to be in an uproar. It was obvious that many people knew of this person. Seeing that Su Yun had won for a while, the people of Realm Tree did not reveal much joy. Su Yun's strength surprised them, especially that strange devil-bone giant, which made them feel fear. However, just defeating Ziming was far from enough. He had to win against the experts that the Cloud Heavenly Palace would send out, and that would be the true victory. It was just that the next person to be sent was definitely not a third-stage Sky Spirit Master cultivator, but a fifth-stage cultivator. If even a third-grade Ziming was so difficult to deal with, then what about this fifth-grade Long Jiang? Master Su Yun's strength has indeed exceeded our expectations, but even if we win this round, it will be useless. The next round will be the true danger. That's right. I wonder how many rounds Master Su Yun can last. How worrying. Long sighs could be heard. Su Yun pretended not to hear anything. He sized up Long Jiang and became focused. Although this person was only at the fifth stage of the Sky Spirit Master, for some reason, the pressure this person gave him far surpassed the pressure of the fifth stage of the Sky Spirit Master people he had met in the past. Su Yun. At this moment, a beautiful voice called out from behind him. Looking towards the source of the voice, he realized that the one who spoke was the Realm Master. Realm Master first looked at Jean Maluo and said indifferently, Elder Jean, the duel has not begun yet. I have a few words to say to Su Yun. It shouldn't be against the rules, right? If you have anything to say, just say it. Jean Maluo casually waved his hand and did not take it to heart. Seeing that, Realm Master called out to Su Yun. Su Yun, come over here for a moment. Although he did not know what Realm Master wanted, Su Yun still walked over. What does Realm Master want to say? Su Yun asked. Realm Master looked at him, a strange light flashing past her eyes. Although this person is at the fifth stage of the Sky Spirit Master, he is completely different from the usual fifth stage people. His killing intent is very heavy, as though he has been through hundreds of battles. You have to be on guard. You have to advance step by step, Realm Master said softly. Hearing that, the corner of Su Yun's mouth raised, and he laughed. Thank you. After going through hundreds of battles, Su Yun thought that he was the same. Although the battles he had experienced might not be as high as this person's. But regardless of whether it was in his previous life or this life, which one of them was not a life and death battle, he had long since gotten used to it and was not afraid. This battle is extremely important to my Wanhua realm. I hope that you do not disappoint our expectations of you, and do not let Hu Qianmei die in vain at the hands of the all-empty sect. With that said, Realm Master took a step forward, her body almost sticking to Su Yun's chest, and a wave of fragrance rushed into Su Yun's nose. This action attracted the attention of countless people. Seeing Realm Master's actions, everyone was curious. Hu Qianmei also looked over strangely, her pair of peach blossom eyes sweeping across Realm Master, as though she was guessing what she was going to do. Su Yun was a little uncomfortable. Looking at the young lady in front of him who was about to stick to his body, he could not help but want to retreat, even though his nose was filled with the fragrance. But now was not the time to enjoy it. Then, Realm Master secretly looked at Jean Maluo a few times, and then said softly, Su Yun, raise your hand. Su Yun did not understand, but he still did as he was told. But in the next second, Realm Master extended out her fair and soft hand, grabbed onto Su Yun's big hand, and directly placed it on her soft chest. Su Yun was dumbfounded. Hu Qianmei was startled. Jean Maluo frowned. Xiao Changtian and Phoenix Lady were both astonished. Star Sword Sovereign Qin Wenrong and the rest were all surprised. This action caused everyone to be extremely astonished. Realm Master, this is... Rong Myuk was at a loss of what to do. He opened his mouth, but was unable to say anything. However, Realm Master did not care about the gazes of the people around her. She closed her eyes and gently pressed down on Su Yun's big hand, as though she was trying to comprehend something. Her cheeks were extremely red, and her delicate body was trembling slightly. Her hand was extremely close to the sensitive point, and it was obvious that she could not hold it in any longer. Su Yun felt that his palm was completely wrapped up by a warm and soft feeling. He did not understand the purpose of Realm Master's actions, but this was not the time to act recklessly. Seeing that Realm Master looked like she was having a hard time enduring, Su Yun was about to pull his hand out. However, the moment he pulled his hand out, a strange green light seeped into his body. Su Yun's face changed. Realm Master slowly opened her eyes and said in a low voice, "This battle, you must win. I have already secretly implanted the Wanhua seed into your body. With this kind of protection, your body will be extremely difficult to damage. Your body's recovery speed will surpass that of ordinary people. Su Yun, do not let me down." With that, she turned around with a crimson face and flew toward the other side while swaying a little. Su Yun was startled. He looked at his palm, feeling that his head was in a mess. What is this girl doing? Phoenix Lady secretly snorted. Could it be that she has taken a fancy to that brat and plans to find him as a dual cultivation companion? That would be such a waste. This girl is after all a realm master. Her body must be a natural divine body. If she could become her dual cultivation companion, who knows how much good fortune she would receive. However, when paired with this brat, it is truly a flower and cow dung. Xiao Changtian sighed. But as soon as he said that, he immediately felt as if he was in an ice house. His entire body was bone-piercing cold. Looking to the side, Phoenix Lady was staring at him with a murderous gaze. Seeing that, Xiao Changtian laughed bitterly. "I'm just saying that. I don't have any other thoughts, Phoenix. Don't think too much about it." "Think too much? Did you not have enough concubines back then?" Phoenix Lady said coldly. "Didn't you kill them all?" Xiao Changtian shook his head. "You know that too?" Phoenix Lady snorted. "I don't care how good this girl is. In short, don't even think about it. If you take in a concubine, I will kill one. Let's see how capable you are." Hearing that, Xiao Changtian could not help but shake his head. He could not be bothered to say anything more. Before Realm Master returned to Realm Tree, he sat down cross-legged and no longer looked at the battle. Su Yun took a deep breath and flew up into the sky. "Let's begin. The final battle will decide the victor." Jean Maluo said coldly, "If your Wanhua realm loses this battle, please fulfill your promise." "Let's win first," Rong Myuk shouted. Su Yun stopped 100 meters away from Long Jiang. He touched his right palm, then looked at Long Jiang, who had his eyes closed, his hands crossed over his chest, and stood there proudly, his mind slightly moved. If what the Realm Master said was true, then didn't that mean that he could unleash all of his power without a care for anything else? Along the way, Su Yun had obtained many fortuitous encounters, and had also obtained many magic treasurettes. His cultivation had soared all the way, stealing other people's cultivation, swallowing profound coiness. In an extremely short period of time, he had reached the Sky Spirit Master realm. Although his cultivation had increased, his physical body had not. So in all the battles before, Su Yun had been a little restrained and did not dare to go all out. He understood his own situation. Compared to those who had cultivated steadily, his advantage was not too obvious. He was a typical profound strength with a weak body. This kind of person, amongst the spirit cultivator, belonged to the type that had developed abnormally. However, the Wanhua seed that the Realm Master had given him seemed to be able to make up for Su Yun's abnormal development. Since that's the case, there's no need to hold back. Su Yun thought coldly. He pulled out the death sword with one hand and took out a stone from his chest with the other. The heavenly crystal that he had not seen in a long time. He stared coldly at Long Jiang and activated the two items at the same time. The heavenly crystal was activated, and a surge of power surged into his body. Although Su Yun had already stepped into the Sky Spirit Master realm, and the heavenly crystal was no longer able to help him jump several stages, there was still a lot of power in the heavenly crystal. This power was enough for him to step into the 4th stage of the Sky Spirit Master from the 3rd stage. and the power of the death sword was even more terrifying. At this moment, Su Yun had completely released the power of the death sword. It was just like when he was fighting with the demon emperor in the sky martial continent. At this juncture, if he could not defeat his opponent, the consequences would be unimaginable. Su Yun thought coldly. The death sword's body trembled crazily. The surging evil spirit chi spread out like a fog, slowly enveloping his body. Long Jiang, who was on the other side, could only feel that Su Yun's strength was increasing crazily, and his chi became even more terrifying. His body was filled with the power of the death sword and the heavenly crystal. His pale face was covered with evil marks. His eyes had already turned blood red. Power overflowed from his 7 orifices. His body had a strange feeling of being unable to split apart. The Wanhua seed and monarch occult force in his body had already been activated. These 2 divine objects were frantically combining all kinds of energy that filled his body. If not for these 2 things, Su Yun would have exploded and died. Long Jiang secretly snorted. He could already feel that Su Yun was not simple. He did not hesitate anymore. He pulled out a sword from his waist that was glowing with a dazzling white light and rushed forward. Long Jiang approached. Su Yun immediately took out a blood-red sword from the sword sheath and threw it forward. It was the immortal, mystical, scarlet blood sword. The blood sword flew out and struck Long Jiang, but was slashed apart by Long Jiang's sword. Su Yun pulled out his sword again. This time, the sword he pulled out was also an incomparably white sword. It was the Lotus Star Sword. 1 black and 1 white sword in his hands, he rushed forward, bringing with him an invincible aura. And when he got close to Long Jiang, the sword sheath at his waist started to tremble. Following that, a torrent of swords shot out from the sword sheath, straight towards Long Jiang. It was like an iron dragon. These swords were all subordinate swords of the immortal, mystical Scarlet Blood Sword. In an instant, tens of thousands of swords flew in front of the gate of nature, and sword intent filled the world. Limitless sword arts. Seeing that, Jean Maluo, who was at the side, cried out involuntarily. Chapter 636. What? Father-in-law? Is this the famous limitless sword arts from back then? Xiao Changtian's face changed slightly as he exclaimed in a low voice. It can't be wrong. Jean Maluo said solemnly. There are countless people who are good at using the imperial sword technique in the sword world, but the people who use the imperial sword technique are only able to control 100 swords. 1,000 swords is already the peak, and the imperial sword technique is considered a low-level sword technique in the sword world. It cannot be seen on the stage. But the imperial sword technique that this person is using is not only powerful, the number of flying swords that he is controlling is also astonishing. It must be the limitless sword arts. The limitless sword arts is not a sword, but a sword spirit. I never thought that this person would actually be the successor of the limitless sword ancestor. Xiao Changtian's face turned ugly. The sword dragon attacked, immediately blocking Long Jiang's attack. Su Yun held onto the 2 swords and approached, 1 black and 1 white. The 2 swords danced. It was almost impossible to see the sword shadows, and Su Yun himself also slowly dimmed down. At the beginning, people could only see the afterimage of Su Yun that appeared beside Long Jiang, but at the end, they could no longer see Su Yun's figure. So fast, the Realm Master could not help but open his eyes. Looking at the battle, he lowered his head and muttered, "Is this Su Yun's strength? Why is it different from when I was fighting Ziming? I feel like I'm a completely different person now. What's going on?" The people of Realm Tree were all confused. However, without a doubt, everyone's hearts were filled with joy. Su Yun's swift and violent attack gave them more or less hope. Perhaps they could win this round. Perhaps there was hope. Seeing that, Xiao Changtian's face was filled with worry. Could it be that Su Yun had been hiding his methods all this time, and now is the time for him to truly display them? Changtian, you don't have to worry. Su Yun won't win that easily, Phoenix Lady said indifferently. From the looks of it, she was not the least bit nervous, as though she was not worried for Long Jiang at all. "Oh, why?" Xiao Changtian asked. Phoenix Lady chuckled. "Just watch." Su Yun's speed was extremely fast, It could be said to have exceeded Long Jiang's expectations. The current him had almost unleashed the divine wind sword technique to its limit. Long Jiang was completely in a passive state, but the white Blade Master clothing on his body seemed to be imperial equipment. When the Death Sword and the Lotus Star Sword struck the Blade Master clothing, they could only leave behind sword scars, but it was difficult to injure his flesh. Even so, it was enough for Su Yun. Activating the imperial equipment required the profound qi. The more ferocious Su Yun's attacks were, the faster Long Jiang's profound qi would be consumed, and in the end, Long Jiang would only lose when the profound qi was exhausted. Long Jiang waved the light sword, but could not keep up with Su Yun's movements at all. After blocking for a while, he extended his hand and activated the Blade Master clothes on his body with all his might, and actually gave up on the sword dance. In almost every breath of time, thousands of sword images would strike Long Jiang's body. If this continued, Long Jiang would definitely lose. The people of Realm Tree became more and more happy, while the people of Sword World became more and more worried. The situation seemed to have become clear. It's time to end it. Right at this moment, Long Jiang suddenly exclaimed in a low voice. Then, he raised his left hand and quickly muttered something. A golden sword mark appeared on his forehead. Li Emperor's sword. Cries of surprise immediately sounded out from the Sword World side. Is it the divine sword used by the Crown Prince of Emperor Li? Why is on Long Jiang? It is said that Long Jiang once saved the life of the Crown Prince of Emperor Li. When the Crown Prince of Emperor Li failed his tribulation and fell, he passed down this sword, as though it was given to Long Jiang. I never thought that Long Jiang would have such good fortune. Rumor has it that this sword is a true divine sword. With the power of the holy God sealed within, it can destroy the heavens and the earth. Long Jiang taking out this sword, doesn't that mean that the outcome of the battle has already been decided? No wonder the clan elder allowed Long Jiang to fight. With this sword, there is no longer any suspense in this battle. Was senior brother Long Jiang playing with Su Yun all along? For Su Yun to be able to hold on until now, he can be considered to have some ability, but to say that he can defeat Master Long Jiang, who wields the Emperor's sword, I do not believe it. Sparse voices came out, and when the people of Realm Tree heard it, they all looked worried. Divine sword? That must be an incredible treasure. The golden sword seal quickly spun out from his forehead and quickly enlarged. In the blink of an eye, it had transformed into a golden red short sword. This sword had no edge and was a few inches thick. It did not seem to be able to injure anyone, but the thick and powerful force on the sword was intimidating. Long Jiang grabbed the sword hilt, stared at Su Yun's crazy attack, and suddenly waved his hand. Dong Long. The sword suddenly exploded, and a circle of golden red qi ripples spread out in all directions. The air trembled, as though it was about to be torn apart by the force, and Su Yun found it hard to resist. His entire body was knocked away, and he retreated more than 100 meters. What a strong, explosive force. Su Yun, who was holding on to both swords, frowned and stared at the distant Long Jiang. He lowered his head to look at his chest, only to see that it was already charred black. His robe had been burned away, and his skin was exposed, and the temperature was not low either. Ever since I obtained this Li Emperor's sword, I have used it to participate in a total of 79 life and death battles. Long Jiang threw away the sword from before, held on to Li Emperor with one hand, and said indifferently, "Up till now, I have never tasted defeat." How confident was he? "Maybe you will fail today," Su Yun said. He was like an eagle. He pounced forward again. Truly, the ignorant are fearless. Long Jiang shook his head and then waved his sword again. Dong, 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 the sword seemed to have detonated the void, and wherever the sword tip went, a series of explosions actually sounded out of nowhere. Moreover, every explosion was extremely terrifying, and its range was extremely wide, causing people to not dare to approach. However, Su Yun was like a wild horse that had escaped its reins, unable to be pulled back at all. He held onto the Lotus Star sword with one hand, staring at the series of explosions that were attacking him. The sword tip pointed forward, the profound strength activated, and a thought was formed. Hua! A dazzling white light appeared at the tip of the sword. The white light changed, and in a short while, it formed a gigantic lotus imprint. With the support of the Lotus Star Sword, it swept towards the explosion. Disperse! Su Yun bellowed. The lotus seal swept towards the explosion and actually absorbed all of the destructive aura. All of the explosions immediately disappeared and calmed down. Lotus Star Sword Art. Waves of exclamations came from the realm tree. What? Long Jiang frowned. He was surprised. He never thought that there would be a move in this world that could block the attack of the Emperor's sword. Do you think this is the end? Let me experience the true power of the Emperor's sword. Long Jiang's expression became serious. He bellowed, and then held onto the Emperor's sword with both of his hands, his lips moving again, urging some profound technique, only to see a strange serrated pattern appear on the sword body of the Emperor's sword. The pattern spread along the edge of the sword body, and then filled it up. Everything was ready. Long Jiang fiercely waved at Su Yun, who was rushing towards him. A burst of red light exploded from the sword. Approaching Su Yun, it immediately spread out, transforming into a gigantic square barrier, completely enveloping Su Yun. The Lotus Star Sword Art that Su Yun had used was meant to break the chain explosion. Long Jiang had changed his technique. The lotus eel was no longer of any use, and when it struck the edge of the strange red light barrier, it immediately dispersed. Seeing that, Su Yun raised his death sword and slashed towards the barrier. Crack! The edge of the sword tore a small hole. Su Yun immediately waved his sword again, wanting to cut it. But at this time, Long Jiang made his move again. He formed a hand seal, and when the hand seal appeared, a strange, profound strength shot into the red light barrier like a bullet. In an instant, the destructive aura inside the red light barrier surged like a tide, continuously surging. Sensing the abnormality, Su Yun's face changed and immediately stopped slashing at the red light barrier. At this time, the destructive aura had already risen to its peak, and like boiling water, it began to boil. Void collapse. Long Jiang bellowed. Dong, 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 dong. Countless explosions sounded out from within the red light barrier. The destructive aura wreaked havoc back and forth, filling the inside to the brim. Su Yun's body was instantly engulfed by the destructive aura and sank into the endless sounds of explosions. The people of Realm Tree all opened their eyes wide, nervously looking at the red light barrier. The people of Sword World, on the other hand, were overjoyed. With such a terrifying move, an ordinary third-stage Sky Spirit Master existence would definitely not even have a corpse left. Su Yun was definitely going to die this time. Big brother. Seeing that, Hu Qianmei's heart felt as if it was being torn apart. Her pair of peach blossom eyes reddened, and she could not help but want to rush forward. But just as she stood up, she was pulled back by a soft little hand. Hu Qianmei turned her slightly red eyes to look. It was the Realm Master. Don't worry, Su Yun is fine, the Realm Master said softly. Hearing that, Hu Qianmei bit her lips, looking at the battlefield that was gradually collapsing and shaking. The anxiousness in her eyes did not decrease. However, she would more or less believe in the words of the Realm Master. After all, the Realm Master's cultivation was extremely high. The explosion gradually subsided, and the trembling space also gradually calmed down. Feeling the destructive aura gradually dissipate, everyone looked over, only to see the person who had been engulfed by the explosion slowly appear in their line of sight. When they saw the person clearly, everyone was stunned. Su Yun, he was actually safe and sound. What? Long Jiang frowned, a look of surprise appearing on his face. At that moment, Su Yun had a black and a white sword floating around him, and both of his hands were holding onto a small flag, using all his strength to activate the flag, and around his body was a faint layer of chi cover. Imperial equipment. Long Jiang immediately understood. Su Yun used the Imperial equipment to defend against his attack. It was just that Long Jiang understood. This move, Void Collapse, was the sword god power of the Emperor sword. Its power was astonishing, Even ordinary Imperial equipment would be smashed to pieces, but Su Yun was safe and sound at the moment. It could be seen that his Imperial equipment was of an extremely high grade. Extremely high grade? Could it be an Imperial equipment within the 10th grade? A trace of greed flashed past Long Zhang's eyes. Imperial equipment of this grade, even in the sword world, was a treasure that everyone coveted. Looks like I have to kill you today. Long Zhang's expression became more and more serious. Chapter 637. With 1,000 swords to attack and an Imperial equipment to defend, even if his body was injured, he would be able to recover at an extremely fast speed. The current Su Yun could be said to have reached an unprecedented peak in terms of fighting strength, surpassing the ordinary 3rd stage of the Sky Spirit Master by countless times. If not for the Realm Master's Wanhua Seed, Su Yun would not have dared to activate the Heavenly Crystal and release the Death Sword's power with all his might. His physical body was not strong enough, so he did not dare to be so presumptuous. Now that Long Jiang had been completely suppressed, the reason was because of this. Regardless of whether it was the chain of explosions or the collapse of the void, none of them had any effect on Su Yun. Long Jiang understood that it would be difficult to kill Su Yun just by relying on the divine power released from his sword. If he wanted to defeat him, he had to do it cleanly and neatly, either shatter his chi meridian or cut off his head. Both of Long Jiang's feet touched the air and leaped high up into the air. Almost at the same time, Su Yun kept his Imperial equipment and grabbed onto the Death Sword and Lotus Star that were circling around him with both hands. The whistling sword chi whistled, causing people to be unable to tell if it was the sword chi or the wind, causing a stream of air to appear in the blue sky. Long Jiang held onto Li Emperor's sword and dropped down. The thick sword body was like a meteor that collapsed. The divine power dispersed the sword chi. Su Yun did not dare to take the sword head-on, but took the opportunity to spin the 2 swords in a big circle, sticking close to Li Emperor's sword and slashing forward. This sword was extremely sharp. In terms of speed, Long Jiang was not Su Yun's match. In terms of agility, Long Jiang was also not Su Yun's match. In terms of aura, Long Jiang was still not Su Yun's match. But in terms of concept and experience, Long Jiang could definitely fight against Su Yun. The black and white swords were about to reach Long Jiang's neck, and just as they were about to succeed, Long Jiang's aura suddenly sank. Li Emperor's sword, his hand slightly twisted. The sword turned to the side, completely ignoring the inertia and striking towards Su Yun's 2 swords. What was even more surprising was that the moment he turned Li Emperor's sword, the hand that was originally holding onto the sword hilt suddenly loosened and directly grabbed towards the sword blade. Li Emperor's sword horizontally, blocking the incoming black and white swords. In an instant, the sound of metal breaking through the air could be heard. Waves of light flashed through the sky. The 2 of them raised their swords in a stalemate. The sword tips trembled, and a terrifying explosion occurred in the surrounding space. Su Yun and Long Jiang used their strength at the same time, slanting their swords 3 times, and like meteors, they fell towards the ground and landed on a big tree below. The tree was instantly reduced to dust. After landing on the ground, Long Jiang took the initiative to attack. The thick Li Emperor sword slashed towards Su Yun. If the sword edge was to even touch Su Yun would probably follow in the footsteps of the big tree and turn into dust. The current him was extremely fierce and sinister, as though he had thrown away everything and only wanted to kill Long Jiang as his ultimate goal. Battle intent surged out from his heart like a river. Su Yun's attack was like a rainbow. He raised his sword and waved it. Long Jiang seemed to be dodging the attack, retreating while defending. Although Long Jiang had experienced hundreds of battles, he had never fought with such a desperate opponent before. After exchanging a few moves with Li Emperor, Long Jiang's arm had 7 to 8 sword scars, and fresh blood flowed out. If this continued, he would definitely lose. He had to suppress Su Yun with his imposing manner. Only then would Long Jiang have a chance of winning. He obviously understood this as well. When he retreated 100 steps, he took a deep breath and stopped moving forward. If he retreated any further, he would lose. Just that, Long Jiang still did not counterattack. He was still defending, but his defense now was was different from before. If he was defending with all his might previously, then now he was defending with all his might. Previously, Long Jiang was always looking for Su Yun's flaws, intending to turn defense into offense, but now it was different. He was already completely defending. He did not have any signs of wanting to turn from defense to offense. All of his movements, profound chi, were just for the sake of defending. He was like a person who was carefully painting, moving and staying still, extremely serious and meticulous. But the more it was like this, the stronger Long Jiang's concept and aura became. He was like a huge mountain, towering and unmoving. No matter how strong he was, he could still break through the pressure. The people of Sword World respected the way of the sword. The sword was the ruler of all weapons. They paid attention to showing off their sharpness and killing when they unsheathed their sword. The people of Sword World often used offense, an imposing manner to determine victory or defeat. The fiercer one was, the greater the chance of victory. They continued to cultivate the concept of the sword. But Long Jiang ran in the opposite direction. He realized that using defense to attack was an extremely good choice in some special battles. This was often the key to turning defeat into victory. Although his cultivation had regressed, Long Jiang's temperament and concept had increased. This kind of concept that was as unmoving as a mountain allowed him to stand in an invincible position. As long as he didn't lose, why would he worry about not winning? Long Jiang waved his sword horizontally, fiercely slashing towards the incoming death sword. Li Emperor's divine power erupted, and the place where the two swords clashed released ripples of profound chi. Su Yun was forced back a few steps, revealing a huge flaw. However, Long Jiang did not take advantage of the situation to pursue and attack. Almost in an instant, he once again assumed a defensive stance. He didn't even have the slightest chance to give chase. Su Yun had obviously sensed Long Jiang's current strategy, but although Long Jiang was always defending, there were times when he could not guard against it. Su Yun's hand trembled, and the Lotus Star sword struck forward. The lotus seal on the sword body shone brightly. Trapped, Su Yun bellowed. The Lotus Star sword released a circle of light, transforming into a rope that wrapped around Long Jiang, fiercely binding his limbs and body. Even so, Long Jiang was not completely bound. He had only slowed down a little. His defense was still not reduced. All the profound strength in his body was used to support his body and the Emperor's sword. Even if the death sword slashed at his body, it would only leave a shallow sword mark. The two of them exchanged blows, one attacking like a rainbow, the other as steady as a mountain. The sky was filled with sword images and sword chi. It was a dazzling sight to behold. In this battle, no matter who won or lost, the names of the two would spread throughout the Wanhua realm and the Sword World. Seems like Lord Su Yun has already gained the upper hand. Rong Myuk looked at the battle situation, his eyes that were filled with worry finally revealing a trace of relief. From the looks of it, Long Jiang does not even have the strength to fight back. If this goes on, the gap will grow bigger and bigger. We can win this round. That's right, maybe this time, our Wanhua realm will be saved. Yang Lang said happily. Fortunately, we have Su Yun's help this time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. That's right, that's right. The people of Realm Tree discussed with each other. However, the Realm Master was still worried and shook her head. You are all wrong. Su Yun does not have the advantage, on the contrary. He is still at a disadvantage. I believe he can see it himself. Disadvantage? Rong Myuk's smile froze. But Long Jiang didn't even fight back. That's just an appearance. The Realm Master said indifferently. Long Jiang's defense is actually an attack. The more ferocious Su Yun's attack, the more active he was in defense, and anyone who was good at fighting knew that attacking was actually harder than defending, because at the same time you were attacking, you had to avoid any flaws and not let the opponent catch your flaws and counterattack you. But the defenders were different. As long as they successfully defended, they would not have to worry about anything. In fact, from the looks of it, Su Yun's consumption of profound chi is not any, less than Long Jiang's. And there's an extremely disadvantageous trend for Su Yun. What trend? Rong Myuk and the rest were startled. The trend of defeat, Realm Master said. At the same time that Long Jiang is defending, he is also studying Su Yun's sword techniques. Look at his eyes. He is not paying attention to Su Yun, nor is he trying to see through Su Yun's flaws. From start to finish, he is staring at Su Yun's sword, although in the eyes of outsiders, Long Jiang is defending with all his might. But Su Yun knows that at the same time, Long Jiang has already thoroughly grasped his own sword techniques. As long as he understands the opponent's pattern, defending will be even easier. Therefore, the Su Yun you're seeing right now is constantly changing his sword techniques, hoping to be able to break down Long Jiang's defense before he runs out of tricks. Hearing the Realm Master's words, Rongmyuk and the rest who had just relaxed tensed up again. Who would have thought that the suppression on the surface was not what they saw? In reality, it was already a matter of life and death. Sure enough, clang! Just as the two were engaged in a fierce battle, an ear-piercing sound that sounded like a bell rang out. A pitch-black sword flew into the air, circled a few times in the air, and stabbed into the side of Gate of Nature. That was Su Yun's death sword. The surface of the death sword was wrapped in a strange divine power. This divine power was like a barrier, isolating Su Yun from it. Even if he used the limitless sword arts, he would not be able to control the death sword. Shock flashed past Su Yun's eyes. The corner of Long Jiang's mouth raised and said indifferently, "It's over." With that said, the Li Emperor sword that he waved suddenly grew in size, becoming 100 meters long, 10 meters wide, and smashed towards Su Yun. With such a large sword, it was impossible for anyone to dodge. In a moment of desperation, Su Yun used the Lotus Star sword to block it. "Defend!" A loud shout. The greatsword struck the Lotus Star sword's body. However, the moment the two swords clashed, Su Yun realized that he could no longer feel the Lotus Star sword in his hands. The Lotus Star sword's body was also wrapped by a strangely Emperor's divine power, and immediately flew out of his hand. When he saw it, he immediately rushed to pull out the sword, but the sword was nearly 1,000,000 kilograms heavy, and he could not lift it at all, as if the sword no longer belonged to him. What was going on? Su Yun was secretly shocked. This is the power of the Emperor's sword. Seeing that it was difficult for Su Yun to pull out the sword again, Long Jiang said indifferently, "It can easily seal a magic treasure, causing the magic treasure to temporarily lose its effectiveness and cannot be used by its master." Think about it, a spirit cultivator who doesn't even have a weapon and doesn't even have a magic treasure. How can he fight? How can he be my match? With that said, Long Jiang raised the gigantic Li Emperor sword and slashed towards Su Yun's head again. Su Yun's expression congealed. He gave up on the Lotus Star sword and dodged Li Emperor's sword. His fingers formed a seal and waved. Boom! The immortal mystical Scarlet Blood sword brought along thousands of subordinate swords and rushed out, attacking Long Jiang. Chapter 638. The sword dragon struck forward, shaking Li Emperor's sword until it made a rustling sound. Seeing that, Long Jiang gave up on attacking Su Yun, and once again switched from attack to defense. With one hand on the gigantic sword body of Li Emperor's sword, the other hand quickly accumulated a technique and poured all of the profound energy in his body into Li Emperor's sword, allowing its divine power to expand infinitely. When the terrifying sword dragon struck Li Emperor's sword, every single sword in the sword dragon seemed to have lost their momentum and fell to the ground. Ding, dang, 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 a series of crisp sounds came out. The sword dragon struck Li Emperor's sword body and immediately fell, transforming into thousands of subordinate swords that scattered all over the ground, no longer making any movements. Limitless sword arts? It's only a so-so, right? Su Yun, let me see how many swords you have left, and how many swords you have. I will cripple you. Long Jiang said indifferently. Seeing that, Su Yun secretly clenched his fists. Li Emperor's sword fell to the ground. As expected of a divine sword, with such a powerful attribute, it was enough to break through all techniques. Without a sword, as a sword user, how much of a blow would that be? At this moment, his fighting strength would also plummet. Seeing that Su Yun did not come out from the sword sheath, The corner of Long Zhang's mouth raised in a strange arc. He no longer defended and rushed forward with the Emperor's sword. This time, it was enough to decide the victor. Just as Long Zhang was about to move, suddenly he felt a pain in his abdomen, and blood spurted out. Long Zhang's body trembled, and he fell to the ground. He immediately crawled up, but the pain in his abdomen caused his face to contort. Lowering his head, he discovered that a transparent hole had appeared in his abdomen, and traces of sword chi were still rippling in the hole. What was going on? Long Zhang was shocked. Whiz! The sound of something tearing through the air rang out once again, and a bone-chilling cold came from behind him. Long Zhang immediately turned around, only to see that in the air there seemed to be some ripples. It was an invisible sword. Long Zhang, who had always been vigilant, immediately came to a conclusion. Although it was only his first time fighting with Su Yun, the number of swords that the other party controlled was shocking, and every sword had a different effect. The black sword that was filled with evil chi, and the white sword that could produce strange lotuses. If another sword that could become invisible appeared, it would not be surprising at all. For a swordsman, the most important thing was naturally the sword in his hand. To them, the sword was the same as their life. If they didn't have their sword, then there wouldn't be heaven. If they lost their sword, then they wouldn't have their life. If they seized their opponent's weapon during a battle, then they would have already won the battle. The divine power of the Emperor's sword, in the end, could actually be explained in one sentence: defend against attack. This sword could be said to be a divine sword that combined both offense and defense. This sword was a sharp weapon that could be used to gain the upper hand. With this sword, even if one could not win, it was absolutely difficult to lose. Feeling the murderous aura attacking him again, Long Zhang subconsciously blocked Li Emperor's sword. The gigantic Li Emperor's sword was like a vast barrier, completely blocking the side. Long Zhang hid behind Li Emperor's sword and was completely safe. Seeing that, Su Yun raised his finger, activating the sword art. He wanted to control the Desolator to bypass Li Emperor's sword and kill Long Zhang, who was behind him. However, just as the Desolator was about to bypass Li Emperor's sword body suddenly doubled in size. The entire sword was like an open city wall, huge and thick. Clang! After a crisp sound rang out, a grayish-white sword appeared out of thin air. It was the Desolator. After Long Zhang looked at the Desolator, the corner of his mouth revealed a cold arc. It is indeed an invisible sword. I never thought that you would have such a sword, just that you want to use such a despicable method to defeat me. Your thoughts are too naive. Long Zhang released his hands, and the incomparably largely Emperor's sword actually slowly floated up from the ground, floating behind him, like the most solid shield, becoming his reliance. Su Yun looked to the side, his expression extremely serious. The Lotus Star Sword, Death Sword, Desolator Sword, and a group of subordinate swords were all struck by the divine power of the Emperor's sword, and could not be used by him for the time being. Even if he sent more swords over, it would be useless, and in this way, the divine sword in his hands would be taken away by the opponent. If he lost his sword, he would no longer have a right to fight with him, but if he did not use his sword, what difference was there from losing his sword? Su Yun's face gradually congealed. The expressions of the two sides were also different. The people of Realm Tree were stunned. They never thought that the Li Emperor's sword in Long Zhang's hands would actually have such a terrifying power. Forget about the other powers of the Li Emperor's sword. Just the fact that it was able to cut off the connection between the weapon and the ruler was enough to rank it in the ranks of the divine swords, because with it, your opponent would always be an unarmed person. Su Yun stood in his original position and did not attack again. Seeing that Su Yun was no longer attacking him, a trace of killing intent flashed past Long Zhang's eyes. The opponent's edge had dissipated, and he did not dare to casually attack. Logically speaking, this was the best opportunity to attack. However, Long Zhang was different from Zitao and Ziming from before. Towards Su Yun, he did not dare to be careless. Even if he had a huge advantage, he could not be careless in the slightest. Although the opponent would no longer use a sharp sword, he still had a method that was even more terrifying than a sharp sword. Boom! The skies suddenly darkened, and a bolt of lightning fell from the sky, directly landing behind Su Yun. Lightning exploded, dust filled the air, Devil Chi soared into the sky, and a ball of black smoke covered the entire gate of nature. When the Devil Chi dissipated, a roar resounded through the clouds. Two huge, blood-red eyes that were as large as copper tombs appeared from within the Devil Chi, followed by a terrifying, deathly pale body. Devil Bone Giant appeared once again. Hee, you finally summoned this puppet, celestial device. The corner of Long Zhang's mouth raised into a cold smile. After that, the profound chi flashed, wrapping around the incomparably large Li Emperor's sword behind him. Li Emperor's sword directly soared into the sky, slashing towards Devil Bone Giant with the force of a ferocious beast. But Su Yun, do you think I can only break your weapon? To Li Emperor's sword, this magic tool can also be cut in half. Wait for me to cripple your puppet equipment. I'll make you helpless. Long Jiang growled. Li Emperor's sword force was berserk, unstoppable. But Su Yun was not afraid at all. He secretly made a hand seal and gave Devil Bone Giant an order. In that moment, Devil Bone Giant moved. It raised its proud head and stared at the incoming Li Emperor divine sword. Suddenly, it opened its terrifying jaws, and with a heaven-shaking roar, it waved its huge and terrifying arms, grabbing towards Li Emperor's sword. Bada! The huge hand directly grabbed onto the heavy blade of Li Emperor's sword. The moment Devil Bone Giant's hand came into contact with Li Emperor's sword blade, the divine power on Li Emperor's sword blade split into hundreds of thin streams and wrapped around Devil Bone Giant's body like a poisonous snake. This was shockingly to cut off the connection between Devil Bone Giant and Su Yun. The corner of Long Zhang's mouth raised slightly. A strange complacency flashed past his eyes as he stared at the giant. The divine power coiled up and down, and in the blink of an eye, it covered Devil Bone Giant's entire body, wrapping it up like a dumpling. Devil Bone Giant seemed to have been wrapped in a layer of cloth armor. According to what he had seen before, Devil Bone Giant should have completely lost his momentum at this time, and could no longer contend against Li Emperor's sword. However, a shocking scene appeared. Devil Bone Giant did not stop. On the contrary, it actually flipped Li Emperor's sword over and grabbed the sword hilt with one hand. A huge sword, a huge person, it was like an ancient god of war, standing between heaven and earth. What? Long Jiang was stunned. It was useless? His heart jumped a few times. He secretly clenched his teeth and immediately activated more profound chi, activating Li Emperor's sword. The divine power within the sword blade surged out once again, frantically spreading throughout Devil Bone Giant's body. Devil Bone Giant's body froze for a moment, but at this moment, there was a change. His huge body also spewed out a large amount of dense chi, but it was not divine power, but devil chi. These devil chi were like fierce beasts that had broken free from their shackles, breaking out of their bodies and attacking the divine power of the Emperor's sword that was enveloping their bodies. These devil chi were extremely ruthless. After coming into contact with the Emperor's divine power, they turned into many terrifying mouths, fiercely tearing towards the Emperor's divine power. A scene that caused one's heart to tremble fell into everyone's line of sight. The divine power was like pieces of white paper, pieces of gauze, all torn apart by the devil chi. Devour. Long Zhang's body trembled uncontrollably, his face suddenly turning pale white. The divine power on the giant's body was like a mulberry leaf being eaten by a silkworm, slowly shrinking until it disappeared. Long Zhang suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Li Emperor's sword was a divine sword. In order to control such a sword, one had to use one's own life as a guide. Now that the divine power of the Emperor's sword had been corroded, it was like his own life force had been corroded. In this short period of time, Long Zhang's life force seemed to have suffered a heavy blow, and his body was also heavily injured. Regardless of whether it was the Death Sword or the Lotus Star Sword, they were all led by Su Yun and controlled by Su Yun. Su Yun's strength was not ordinary. But compared to the divine power inside the Emperor's sword, he was far from it, which was why the divine power of the Emperor's sword had temporarily sealed off the connection between the swords. But Devil Bone Giant was different. Everyone had a wrong understanding of it. They thought that it was Su Yun's puppet equipment, but it was not. It wasn't some kind of puppet artifact. In fact, it was one of the 7 heroic spirits that Changgu and Inmo had left behind for Su Yun. It was not owned by Su Yun, but had completely submitted to Su Yun. The power within each of them completely came from Changgu and Inmo. How is this possible? Long Jiang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, stared at Su Yun and the giant, and panted. This puppet equipment can actually ignore the divine power of the Emperor's sword? This is impossible, not to mention Long Jiang. Even Xiao Changtian, Phoenix Lady, Star Sword Sovereign, Qin Wenrong, and the others had faces full of astonishment. Even Jean Maluo, who had always been calm, revealed an unconcealable shock. Su Yun stared at Long Jiang, his entire body releasing traces of extremely sinister devil qi. The divine power of the Emperor's sword? That was only from the Crown Prince of Emperor Li. Compared to Lord Changgu and Lord Inmo, a mere Crown Prince of Emperor Li is not even worth mentioning. He said coldly, his eyes red like an evil demon. Chapter 639. Changgu, Inmo. Long Jiang was startled. Changgu, Inmo, was this magic tool created by these 2 peerless great demons? The surprise on Jean Maluo's face became more and more intense. His eyes looked straight at the Devil Bone Giant, and at the end, his expression could almost be replaced with shock. The legendary 2 peerless great demons that fought against immortals and gods? How is this possible? It is said that these 2 great demons have long since perished. How could this Su Yun, with his mere strength of an ant, obtain their inheritance? Xiao Changtian exclaimed. The True Devil sect has lost these 2 great demons. They can protect themselves, but they can no longer compete with the immortal world. To be able to contend against the divine power of the Prince of Emperor Li, it can be seen that this puppet equipment's grade is definitely not low. I'm afraid that what Su Yun said is true. I never thought that Su Yun would actually have such a treasure in his hands. Jean Maluo's face became gloomy. He thought for a moment, then turned to Xiao Changtian and Phoenix Lady and said, "You 2 must think of a way to investigate this Su Yun. Regarding his background and so on, you must find out clearly. This person has such a treasure, and even has a relationship with the limitless sword ancestor. I'm afraid his background is not simple. Do not bring trouble to your all-empty sect. Do you understand? Father-in-law, don't worry. Changtian will immediately arrange for someone to investigate." Xiao Changtian cupped his fists and said, "Yes." Jean Maluo nodded. "Father, even if this Su Yun's background is not simple, so what? Are we going to give up on taking revenge for Huailin and let this matter rest just like that?" Phoenix Lady said with some resentment. "How can I not avenge my grandson's blood feud? However, we have to be prepared for everything. If we act rashly, we will only suffer a loss. And if we thoroughly understand Su Yun, we will be able to think of countermeasures in advance. Won't we?" Jean Maluo said indifferently. Hearing that, Phoenix Lady nodded slightly and did not say anything else. On the other hand, Xiao Changtian started to worry. "Father-in-law, if this puppet is really as Su Yun said, created by the 2 great demons, then this puppet is definitely not ordinary. I'm afraid Long Jiang will not win so easily." "About that, father-in-law, Changtian is thinking, if please do not be angry if Long Jiang loses to Su Yun, then what should we do?" "How dare you?" When Xiao Changtian finished speaking, Jean Maluo's face immediately darkened. "What do you mean by that? Are you saying that the power of my cloud heavenly palace is inferior to a demon realm devil cultivator?" Hearing that, Xiao Changtian's face turned pale and immediately cupped his fists. This son-in-law definitely did not mean that. It was just a moment of nonsense, a moment of nonsense. "Please don't take it to heart, father-in-law." "Nonsense? I'll take it as nonsense. Don't say such things in the future." Jean Maluo snorted and said solemnly, The strength of my cloud heavenly palace is not something that anyone can compare to. Long Jiang is a fifth-stage cultivator. This Su Yun is just a mere third-stage cultivator. In terms of cultivation, he is not a match for him. And Long Jiang has received the teachings of the cloud heavenly palace. All of his profound sword techniques, are the best in the heavenly palace. In terms of techniques, Su Yun is not a match for him, and Long Jiang has received the rewards of the heavenly palace. His body is equipped with imperial equipment, and with the Emperor's sword in hand, Su Yun's sword has already been crippled, and right now, it is just a Devil Realm artifact that is struggling to hold on. How could Long Jiang lose to Su Yun? If Long Jiang were to lose, what face would my Cloud Heavenly Palace have? How will my Cloud Heavenly Palace be able to stand in the future? Therefore, Long Jiang will definitely not lose, and even more so, we cannot lose. Jin Maoyuo's words were very heavy. In fact, he and Xiao Changtian could clearly see whether or not Long Jiang could lose, but he understood that if Su Yun won this battle, then the Cloud Heavenly Palace would lose all face, his power in the sword world would be reduced, and he would also be looked down upon by others. The Cloud Heavenly Palace's position in the sword world would also be affected, and the consequences would be extremely serious. A fifth-stage person could not even defeat a third-stage person. This was a great humiliation. The Cloud Heavenly Palace was different from the Wanhua realm. The battles that the people here had experienced were far inferior to the people of the sword world. Even if they lost, it was understandable, but the people of the sword world were different. If they were to lose miserably, their lives would be worse than death. Previously, Zitao was no match for Liu Xian, and in order to survive, he used his source energy to cripple Liu Xian. Although he did well, he could not live, and for the sake of the reputation of the Cloud Heavenly Palace, Zitao still could not escape death. This was the cruel rule of the people of the sword world. In a duel, only the victor had the right to live, and the loser had to die. Pudong, Pudong, Pudong. The surging devil chi tore apart the divine power of Li Emperor's sword, causing it to shatter into pieces. The divine power of Li Emperor's sword had completely dissipated, and the gigantic Li Emperor's sword was actually held tightly by the giant. Li Emperor's sword was restless, wanting to break free from the giant's palm. But at this moment, the vast and ferocious devil chi was gathered in the giant's hands, intending to suppress it. Not good. Long Jiang's face changed. He immediately changed his hand seals and recalled Li Emperor's sword. The gigantic body of Li Emperor's sword trembled crazily, as though it was struggling, but the giant's hand was like an iron pincer, tightly grabbing onto the hilt of Li Emperor's sword. In terms of strength, the divine power in Li Emperor's sword seemed to be inferior to the devil power in Devil Bone Giant's body. Now, you and I both have no swords. Isn't this fair? Su Yun stared at Long Jiang with his blood-red eyes and said coldly. Long Jiang's face changed slightly. Roar! At this moment, a furious roar erupted. Long Jiang anxiously looked at the giant, only to see that the giant seemed to be going all out. With a furious roar, both of his arms grabbed onto Li Emperor's sword and directly slashed towards him. The might of the gigantic sword was like an immortal descending the wrath of the heavens. The aura of the apocalypse was truly terrifying. When this scene appeared, it really shocked everyone present. Using the opponent's sword to slash at the opponent. Probably only Su Yun could do such a thing, right? Li Emperor's sword was not like the Death Sword and the Lotus Star Sword. It was wrapped in a strange chi and lost contact with Long Jiang. So when Devil Bone Giant swung it towards Long Jiang, it did not reveal much of its power. But even if it was this brute force, it would still be extremely ferocious. How could Long Jiang dare to fight head-on? He hastily dodged, but the moment he moved, a strange and profound storm suddenly swept up. Long Jiang's face was startled. He looked around, only to see that Su Yun in the distance had actually closed his eyes. He formed a hand seal with one hand, and with the other behind his back, he seemed to be activating some profound technique. Strong winds blew around his body. The profound chi was oppressive, and outside the profound chi, there were layers of terrifying sword chi. Sword chi? Where did it come from? Long Zhang's heart jumped. He felt that something was wrong. For some reason, the flowers, plants, and trees around Su Yun started to grow crazily. The flowers on top of the gate of nature all bloomed. The grass on the ground grew strong and healthy, and the living beings of the Wanhua realm on the outside could not help but kneel down at this moment. With Su Yun as the center, they raised their heads and roared. For a time, all the beasts roared. The sound was like the sky, a rare sight. What's going on? The people of Wanhua realm were in an uproar. What a dense spiritual energy. Rong Myuk cried out involuntarily, his gaze fixated on Su Yun, who was in the distance. This person's body is filled with devil qi, but within this devil qi, there is actually a large amount of spiritual energy. These spiritual energies were like raindrops shooting in all directions. What was going on? What's going on with this person? Rong Myuk anxiously looked towards Realm Master, hoping to be able to solve his doubts. However, Realm Master did not say a word. Her pair of watery eyes quietly looked at Su Yun. Could it be that Big Brother has learned some new moves again? Hu Qianmei stared blankly at the mystical scene, her small mouth wide open. At this moment, it was most suitable to describe the scene that people saw as the revival of all living things, and the world was filled with spirit intent. Hu Qianmei looked over and felt that the grass and trees around Su Yun were even more charming. Even a rock on the ground was filled with more vitality than usual. As time passed, the beasts in the distance also cried out more and more happily. These spirit beasts that lived in the Wanhua realm all had intelligence, and knew that the people of the sword world were not good people. Many of the spirit beasts were afraid of their strength and did not dare to approach. But at that moment, for some reason, the spirit beasts actually started to slowly approach, or to be more precise, they should be approaching Su Yun. When they got close to Su Yun, the strange sword qi around Su Yun's body became stronger and stronger, like a pile of dry firewood thrown towards the flames. Long Jiang understood that if he did not use all of his strength now, he would definitely fail. He couldn't be stingy anymore. Long Jiang growled. He suddenly extended his hand and fiercely slapped his own chest. Clang! The sound of metal exploding resounded through the world. Li Emperor's sword in the giant's hand suddenly rushed out of the giant's hand and flew in the sky. After that, it circled a few times in the sky, returned to its original size, and directly landed on the ground, not moving at all. There was no aura on the surface of Li Emperor's sword. It was actually as silent as the flying swords on the ground. Seeing this scene, the surroundings were in an uproar. So ruthless, so decisive. Rong Myuk could not help but exclaim. What? Hu Qianmei immediately asked. What's going on? Don't you know? Rong Myuk stared at Li Emperor's sword and said, Li Emperor's sword is a divine sword, and its body contains divine power, but I do not know if it was forged for the Prince of the Emperor, but in short, it is different from ordinary swords. To control this kind of sword, one needs to use one's own source energy to control it, and to fuse one's own source energy with the sword body this way. One can control the divine sword as they please, and just now, Long Jiang attacked his own source energy, causing the Emperor's sword to be heavily injured, and its spirit went through self-protection, sealing itself. The currently Emperor's sword, no one can use it. Even Long Jiang himself can't unleash much of the Emperor's sword's power. Hearing that, Hu Qianmei was shocked. Although this move is ruthless, it's still better than being held by that giant. Rong Myuk said. Hu Qianmei nodded her head, but she quickly thought of something and asked, Prime Minister Rong, according to what you said, doesn't that mean that once Long Jiang dies, Li Emperor's sword will also be destroyed? That won't happen, but Li Emperor's sword will be sealed for a period of time. During this period of time, it will be like a rotten stone, completely useless. It will wash away the aura of its previous owner and become a masterless sword. I never thought that this divine sword would actually have such a spiritual nature. Hu Qianmei sighed. If only I could obtain it. Chapter 640. Su Yun had lost his death sword and a series of other divine swords, and Long Jiang had also lost his Li Emperor's sword. In this situation, he had to rely on other methods to fight. Naturally, Long Jiang would not wait for Su Yun to finish using this strange, profound technique before launching an attack. The profound technique was like this: the longer it was played, the more powerful the profound technique would be. Long Jiang quickly took out a slender silver needle from the space bag at his waist and shot it towards the bottom of Su Yun's feet. The silver needle landed on the ground and pierced into the soil before disappearing. The moment the soil disappeared, the ground beneath Su Yun's feet started to crack, and with lightning speed, a large hole appeared. Inside the hole, there were many slender and sharp steel needles. They were several meters long. The needles were suffused with profound qi. They were extremely sharp. When the hole appeared, Su Yun's body immediately fell down. But in that split second, Devil Bone Giant's big hand reached out and grabbed onto Su Yun's legs in time. So. Another change occurred in the cave. Over 100 sharp needles flew out like arrows and pierced toward Su Yun. The giant immediately dragged Su Yun and moved him towards his chest. At the same time, he extended his other hand and completely covered Su Yun, protecting him completely. The sharp needles came, but when they hit the back of Devil Bone Giant's hand, they could not even leave a mark, much less pierce through it and injure Su Yun. What? Seeing that the treasure could not do anything to Su Yun, Long Jiang's face changed. This puppet equipment was truly an incredible treasure. It could attack and defend. It was simply a personal bodyguard. Normally, puppet equipment would require the master to control it wholeheartedly, and the operation of the puppet equipment would require the master to continuously transport profound qi. Once it was interrupted, the puppet equipment would stop moving, but from the looks of it, this thing seemed to have far surpassed the scope of puppet equipment. It was not easy to deal with. Long Jiang was in a difficult position. He thought that this battle would be extremely easy, but Su Yun's strength had exceeded his imagination and was extremely troublesome. Long Jiang. Just then, a shout came from the side. Long Jiang's body trembled. He looked towards the direction of the voice and saw that the one who spoke was Jean Maluo. Jean Maluo nodded slightly, as if he was hinting at something. Seeing that, Long Jiang's expression immediately became solemn. "Elder, can I use it?" Long Jiang said in a low voice, his voice full of heaviness. "That was bestowed to you by the mistress. You can use it yourself. Furthermore, this time, you're fighting for the glory of the sect, of course. What is there to feel pity about it? Is that thing not comparable to the glory of the sect?" Jean Maluo said. Of Jiang. Of Long Jiang's expression became serious. His body trembled as his feet pushed off the ground, and he suddenly retreated a few hundred meters, pulling away from the Devil Bone Giant that was charging at him. In of Mo Kings, the Yun Jiang finally of Yun Mountain. Of the of Su of the Mountain, of Yun of Mountain. Yin Su Sword Yun, sect of Emperor of the Mountains of the Mountains of the sect. Every one of Yun of sect of Yun Su of the Mountain. Su Yun, you are very lucky. I had once carried out an extremely dangerous sect mission, and the difficulty of this mission was extremely high, almost impossible to complete, but not only did I complete it, I also protected the sect's reputation, preventing the Cloud Heavenly Palace from suffering any losses, and for this, I also paid a huge price, which was to drop from the 10th stage of the Sky Spirit Master to the current 5th stage. Thus, the Palace Master bestowed this Cloud, Sky Divine Stone to me, and the Palace Master instructed me that this item is the most suitable to be used to forge divine armament. I have always been unwilling to use it, but today, in order to kill you, I can only endure the pain. With that said, Long Jiang continued to accumulate the technique. The profound qi in his body was like a silver river that broke through the sky, crazily pouring out towards the mountain in the sky. The bottom of the mountain slowly tore open. A pitch-black hole appeared. An incomparably huge, transparent green hand appeared from the hole, directly grabbing towards Su Yun. Roar! The giant let out an extremely angry roar. It placed Su Yun on the ground, and then with large strides, it rushed towards the huge hand that extended down from the gigantic mountain. The appearance of the giant hand seemed to be a great challenge to it, and the giant's demonic nature was completely aroused. Although the giant was controlled by Su Yun, and was moved by Su Yun's profound qi. It had its own spirituality, and this spirituality came from the demonic nature. However, this demonic nature was not activated by itself, but released by Su Yun. The devil qi was a very mystical qi. It was different from the profound qi, but it had a special attribute that was different from the profound qi, and that was assimilation. This assimilation was what the spirit cultivator talked about, but many people did not know that the demonization was not only for people. Even some things would be demonized, especially magic treasures. These magic treasures were usually called devil artifacts, and most of them were forbidden items. The huge giant took heavy steps forward, its 2 big feet causing the ground to tremble crazily. As it approached the miraculous giant hand, the giant directly extended its hands and grabbed towards the giant hand. Dong! The bone hand and the chi hand clashed, but it was like a planet colliding with each other. A muffled sound exploded, and the ground suddenly sank. The ground cracked, and a surging power swept out in all directions like a wave. The giant and the giant hand began to compete with each other. The giant's huge body bent slightly, and its feet fiercely stomped on the ground, creating 2 huge dents in the ground. It did its best to push upwards, as if it wanted to stuff the giant hand back into the hole. However, the strength of the giant hand was also astonishing. It did not retreat even half a step and continued to be in a stalemate with the giant. The giant was stalling the magic treasure to buy time for Su Yun. Su Yun did not hesitate. He completely ignored the scene at the scene and continued to activate his profound technique. The strange sword-intent storm around him became more and more intense, and the spirit energy that was floating in the air began to dissipate, transforming into sword qi. Su Yun, do you think this is the end? Long Jiang stared at Su Yun sinisterly, gritted his teeth, and said, then activated the profound strength. Whiz! From a gigantic cave, another even larger hand came out, and with lightning speed, it rushed towards Su Yun. Bada! Su Yun was caught by the big hand. Big brother. Seeing that, Hu Qianmei released a heart-wrenching scream. She immediately rushed forward, wanting to go up and save Su Yun. But just as she moved, she was instantly stopped by the Realm Master. Don't act recklessly. If you act recklessly, you will be openly disturbing the duel. According to the rules of the Sword World, we will become the target of public criticism. The people of the Sword World can use their martial arts against us. My Wanhua realm will also fall into a state of eternal damnation. The Realm Master bellowed. Scram, you damned woman. My brother fought for your Wanhua realm. Now that he's in deep danger, you guys actually did not save him. The people of Wanhua realm are truly ungrateful people. Hu Qianmei did not care about the Realm Master. She immediately scolded, pushed him away, and was about to rush forward. But how could her strength be a match for the Realm Master? With a slight movement of the Realm Master's finger, an emerald green light screen completely enveloped her. Hu Qianmei continued to strike the light screen, but was unable to break it, as though she was locked in a cage. Damned woman, slut, let me out. Hu Qianmei was so anxious that tears flowed out. Seeing the huge hand grabbing onto Su Yun and pulling him into the cave, she felt as though she was about to collapse. However, the Realm Master turned a blind eye to it. She understood that if she allowed Hu Qianmei to leave just like that, she would only die in vain. She stared at the huge mountain that was floating in the air, and her heart couldn't help but ripple. Her fair hands were already covered in perspiration. At the same time, the devil bone giant who was fighting against the huge hand seemed to have lost its power and instantly stopped moving. Its entire huge body was fiercely pressed onto the ground by the huge hand and smashed into the soil. The scene returned to normal. People only saw the long river and that strange mountain. Seeing that, Hu Qianmei sat on the ground paralyzed. Tears flowed out of her eyes like a dam that had burst. The Realm Master's exquisite and beautiful face had a trace of obscure haze hanging on it. Prime Minister Rong, she called out in a low voice. What orders does the Realm Master have? Rong Myuk, who was still looking at the mountain, immediately regained his senses and anxiously cupped his fists and said, Pass down the order. Prepare to attack. First, destroy that mountain. Then directly kill Jean Maluo and the rest. The Realm Master said in a low voice. Her voice was very light, very low, but it was filled with killing intent. After Rong Muk heard that, he was startled for a while, and only regained his senses after a long while. He anxiously said, Realm Master, this is not appropriate. If we really open it with Jean Maluo, could it be that you really plan to cede the land? Without waiting for Rong Muk to finish speaking, the Realm Master turned her small face and stared at him with sparkling eyes. Rong Muk opened his mouth, but did not know what to say. Since the Realm Master had given her orders, Rong Muk did not dare to disobey. He could only take a deep breath and secretly pass down the order. Very quickly, the Realm Tree soldiers received the news. However, at this moment, most of their gazes were still fixed on the huge mountain that was floating in the air. Long Jiang, who was at the foot of the mountain, was operating the gigantic mountain with all his might, just like a pill master beside a pill furnace, urging his qi while staring at the mountain. Although Su Yun was pulled into the mountain, Long Jiang's expression did not relax in the slightest. From this, it could be seen that Su Yun was not dead yet. The interior of this mountain is filled with destructive, multicolored light that can shatter everything in the world. Any existence that enters the mountain will not even have a corpse left, but there seems to be Su Yun's qi inside. As Long Jiang tried his best to activate the profound qi, he pondered solemnly. He had used enough qi. The flags on the surface of the mountain trembled crazily, and the profound strength continued to surge out of the mountain. No one knew whether Su Yun was dead or alive inside the mountain. They only knew that Su Yun had long since lost his momentum. Being absorbed by this magic tool, Su Yun will definitely die. Jean Maluo's serious face finally revealed a light smile. He turned his head and looked at the Realm Master and said indifferently, Realm Master, I think we can talk about the matters of the Linglong Mountain area. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.